Good evening. We're going to call this meeting to order. I feel so good to do that, to just honor the city and just hear from our residents. So welcome, everyone. I'm Tiffany Baker. I am your chair, and I am going to ask you to join us for the flag salute. And would you join us while Commissioner Wilson leads us, please?
You could all stand and face the flag. Put your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. So Erica, I'll ask you to do the roll call, please.
Of course. Chair Baker,
Here.
Commissioner Faulkner,
Here.
Commissioner Harris,
Here.
Vice Chair Huerta,
Here.
Commissioner Pastorian,
Here.
Commissioner Steed is absent, Commissioner Wilson.
here.
Thank you.
Okay, before we go into public comments, I would like to take a little liberty as your chair to give you some public comments of my own. First of all, thank you for all of you that came out and lent your voice to our community, whether it was in favor of REDI or not. You participated. And I cannot stand for people to complain about things that they are not willing to show up and lend their voice. So we want to thank you. We want to thank you. We want to thank all of the nonprofit sector that wrote in. So many of you are doing this work on the front line. You're serving our community, and we need your input, and we thank you for your support. We in particularly want to thank the children that showed up. You know, I'm with the youth. You know, if you know me, the kids are where it's at. So for every young person that showed up and lent their voice, kudos to you and your parents. And welcome to the young people that are here today. Get involved. Hello. And the young at heart, welcome, Mayor Edwards. And we want to thank you all for your participation, lending your voice. And we want to welcome you to our meeting. We also want to thank the many businesses that stood up with us. They didn't get an opportunity to have their comments read into the record, but it is a matter of public record for everyone to see for tomorrow. But I wanted to acknowledge the support because without you, there's no need for us to be here. We're here to serve, and we're here to serve you, the community. And last but not least, we want to thank the staff for your endurance, for your courage. Thank you. Thank you. We want to thank you, and the staff, I mean the Sheriff's Department, we want to thank them because we're volunteering here. You know, we know what we signed up for, but they're the staff just trying to do their job, so thank you. Oh, and our city council, God bless you. God bless you and God bless America. That's all I'm gonna say. Thank you though, for real. Thank you for all of the kind words you said. Thank you for reaffirming your trust in us to serve. You picked a good group of people. And thank you to my fellow commissioners, those of you that lent your voice, those of you at the meeting, those of you that prayed and stayed and watched, those of you that endured and didn't shrink back because people don't know us, but now here's your chance for them to know you. Thank you for your courage. Thank you. And thank you to our community. And last but not least, I would ask that we would just be kind. We will be kind. We're here to hear you. Please don't call us names. Please don't be mean to us. And please be an example for our children. Thank you again for the opportunity to serve this great city. With that, I'll turn it over for public comments, Erica.
Yes, we have 6 in-person public comments and 1 emailed public comment. I'll go ahead and read the rules. A total of 30 minutes is provided for members of the public to address the Race, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Commission on items that appear on the consent calendar or a matter not listed on the agenda. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. For all business items on the agenda, each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. Public comments may be made in person at the meeting by submitting a speaker card to the secretary or by submitting an email to be read aloud into the record at the meeting by the secretary. Email comments must be submitted to erica.ramirez@temeculaca.gov. Email comments on all matters, including those not on the agenda, must be received prior to the time the item is called for public comments. Email comments shall be subject to the same rules as would otherwise govern in-person public comments. The first in-person public comment is Rick Reese, to be followed by Kathy Sizemore.
Good evening, Commissioners. Tonight I only hope to take a couple minutes here, but I have more questions than anything else, and so I'll just start kind of going through some of them here. What is Temecula REDI Commission going to do to reach out to those people in the community who are skeptical of both the reasons behind the creation of the commission and the commission's mission and agenda? It's a question I'd like to know. The REDI Commission was created by the City Council last year during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic that was unleashed by the Chinese communists, and also during the state lockdown. I mean, we were going through probably what everybody in the nation was going through, a lot of stress and everything. Many people, though, due to the pandemic, and I'm talking about here in Temecula, due to the pandemic, the lockdowns, and also while trying to save their lives, their health, their businesses, their livelihoods, they had no idea that this commission was even in the process of being created. They didn't have time to kind of pay attention to City Hall politics or what was going on. I mean, the people like that had a lot of other issues going on. I kind of think that in a way it makes me feel like that the commission was kind of created under the cover of darkness, and what I mean by darkness is that the darkness we were going through was both the pandemic and the lockdowns, and so people just didn't know about this thing. Does the commission take any position on these people in our community who had no time to pay attention to the city council politics and who had no input during the debate to create this commission? Would you consider these people to be underrepresented? Another question, what are the metrics the REDI Commission is utilizing to determine exactly who are the underrepresented here in Temecula? What are the demographics of these underrepresented that you're in the process of identifying? What are their ages? What are their races and ethnicities? What about their biographies or their economic status? I think it'd really crystallize and help a lot of us better understand just who is it you're trying to identify and define as underrepresented. What are the barriers that you have on the REDI Commission that you have focused on? Do you have a definition for these barriers? Are these barriers physical, like fences, concrete walls, locked doors? Or are they technological, like smartphones and other electronic devices? Are they substances like drugs and alcohol, or can they be psychological or cultural? I think these terms seem to be kind of vague and everything. I think a lot of us would really appreciate having firmer definitions on these terms that you're coming up with. Some barriers actually serve
Chair
useful
Baker.
purposes.
Excuse me, that's 3 minutes.
Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
comments.
Does your clock work? That would help a lot if you had the timer on there.
Erica, for the record, some commissioners want to make sure that we can somehow cycle back to his question. So if we can just note this for commission's interest.
Yeah, absolutely. Chair Baker, we'll go ahead and note any concerns, questions, and we'll distribute them in the after action as we normally do.
Thank you so much.
Next speaker is Kathy Sizemore, to be followed by Bob Cowell.
Hello. It's okay.
Good evening, fellow commissioners. For those, I'm Commissioner Kathy Sizemore. I serve on Temecula's Community Services Commission. I have been watching your meetings. I've watched or participated in every city council meeting since February 2020. I watch your meetings. I do have a 7 o'clock meeting with another team that's not too happy that I'm here. So I usually have to watch the rest of your meetings on YouTube. For the last few months, I've watched my colleagues get called dirty names. People that I have served in the trenches with, volunteering in our community for close to 10 years. People that are new friends and commissioners that I've known for several years, and I'm just building a relationship with them. And I've heard them called people of hate, people that I've known nothing but kindness and love from. And it breaks my heart. And I wanted to come here tonight to let you know that I stand with you, I see you, and I support my colleagues, and that's why I'm here tonight. I watch your meetings. I don't see or hear anything hateful coming out of your mouths. And it breaks my heart to hear people say that. What is the work of the REDI Commission? How are you already working? You're impacting me, your fellow commissioner. You've caused me to start looking at my commission differently. As we've started to open the theater for productions again, I've turned to my commission and my staff for TCSD and asked, gee, it's great that I can go to the theater, but can everybody go back to the theater? What about our deaf community? Are there things that we need to think about being inclusive of other people to make sure that those barriers are not there? We've had conversations. I've been able to go up to you as an obese woman that lives in Temecula and say that there are barriers that would keep me from participating as a commissioner in the city. And you guys have been there to listen. I thank you for what you're doing. I thank you for how you're impacting me to go back and serve this city. I've had some really good conversations with friends. Friends that are raising biracial children, that we've had these conversations that have made me think, and it's changed my heart. All because of what you guys are doing. And I thank you for that. And I thank you for making me better as a commissioner in the city. You've made me better serving the youth that I serve in this community. And I want you to know I support you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Bob Cowell, to be followed by Kenny.
I'm going to start my clock up here. Okay. So, yeah, I wonder why why everybody's worried about why the commission was created in the first place. It was created during a time, like Rick Reese said, that we were wondering where this virus was going. We were masked up, we were at home, and BLM came to town with the threat of burning down our city, and that is a true thing. We were geared up to fight back against BLM, and that's why the police came out and they corridored those people out to the city hall front steps here. We were prepared that they would burn down things, as they have in other cities. That's why we have this fear of this commission that will create a divisive, race-filled agenda against the people of the city, especially those who are Republican, conservative, white Christians, okay? That's what we're worried about. So we're looking at you going, what are you going to do? Are you going to take away our freedoms? Are you going to make us do things that are against our will, our freedoms? That's what we're worried about. So when we go down to the duck pond, for instance, and we have, you may not agree with what we say, what we believe in. We have Trump signs. We believe that Trump won, okay? So we believe that, but we have little kids that probably learned this in their school, cursing at us, giving us the finger, things like that. It is not right. Those are things that we get on a regular basis every time we're at the duck pond. We have bottles thrown at us, cans thrown at us, and people says, what about, our feelings are hurt. What about our feelings? Our feelings, we just let it go. We just wave and say, God bless you, we love you. And most of us, I can't say that for 100%, but most of us don't do anything to counter that. I noticed one thing. Let me find out how much time I've got. Okay, just a minute left. I noticed last time that Marianne Edwards and Matt Ron said that the REDI Commission was created. It was a long time in process. However, James Stewart said the commission was created after he resigned as mayor, which was 2 months before the REDI Commission was started. So I just wanted to end with that. We fear the REDI Commission. So you have to prove to us that we have nothing to fear, okay? Thank you.
Next speaker is Kenny, to be followed by Jenny Adama.
Good evening, Chair Baker.
Good evening.
Good evening, Commissioners. Good evening, staff. I would just like to say that I support the REDI Commission. I have watched a lot of the meetings. I have heard a lot of the fear, but I haven't heard any hatred, any animosity, anything that would cause division coming from the people that are sitting before me. And I just want to say, continue to fight the good fight. Continue to stand for the people. You stand for those who are underrepresented. I was a man who is a black man in this community who was underrepresented, a father for single dad who was underrepresented. I know you're trying to reach people just like me. I know you're giving opportunities for children to speak. On Tuesday, a child came up here and was able to voice what she felt. I don't think if the REDI Commission was in place, that would have ever happened. Even whether you're on this side or that side, that opportunity was given to a child to speak. So at the end of the day, the REDI Commission is opening the doors up for the little ones and the old ones to speak and voice their opinion. I am happy that you are here. I hope many more come to support what you are doing here in this community. Fear normally comes from ignorance. We just don't know. But I don't think you guys have really had the full opportunity yet to show all that you're going to do. It's been a lot of meetings and a lot of information and learning about what the city has and what the city has to offer. And I'm happy that now you get the chance to really get down deep and implement the things that are going to change this city around so that those that are in fear about what they don't know can be at peace. And it's okay if we don't agree, but we should agree on just this city being the city that all of us can love, all of us can dwell in, and all of us can be at peace. I support the REDI Commission and everything that you stand for. Thank you.
Next speaker is Jenny Adamo, to be followed by Julie Mazarezik.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners, and staff. This is not comfortable for me, but I'm doing it.
We appreciate you.
Thank you. This is my first meeting here, but I felt so compelled to speak and show my support for this committee after Tuesday's meeting. My family and I lived in Temecula from 2009 to 2014. Due to my husband being in the military, we had to move out of the area, however, returned last year. After careful consideration, we chose to return to the city of Temecula to raise our children and to retire from his Navy career. The Temecula I returned to does not feel like the Temecula I left. So much has changed for our country in the last 6 years, and Temecula is not immune. There is so much hate, so much division, and no clear goal on how to move forward collectively. I came to the city council meeting on Tuesday. It was the first meeting I've ever attended, but I've been looking for ways to become more involved in my community and was curious about what happens in my city government. Tuesday's meeting left me sad and disheartened, however, showed the stark division of how I felt since returning. The common theme I heard was people feeling like there are no problems here with racism and asking for proof. Yet when people came up here to tell their stories, people muttered under their breath and booed. For those who haven't experienced racism, that's wonderful, but because you haven't seen it or experienced it doesn't mean others haven't. And many members of our city shared their personal experiences with racism and encounters they've had in this very community. The very next person would come up and say the exact same thing, asking where the racism is. The reaction to Tuesday's meeting is the exact reason I feel like your committee is needed. I have friends here in the LGBTQ community and friends from different countries and backgrounds that have shared their stories of racism and prejudice around my dinner table. I'm here representing myself, but I'm also here representing them. They shouldn't have to come to a city council meeting to share their discomforts and pain they've experienced, only for that to be dismissed as not real, or being told by the community that it doesn't belong here. It does belong there, and I'm hopeful that it belongs in this committee. I'm so tired of the society we've turned into, this clickbait culture where our attention spans don't make it past media's sensationalized article titles before we formulate our opinions. It's led us to this state where people on Tuesday can't even take in new information if it conflicts with the ideas that have already been cemented in. There is racism here whether people want to believe it or not, and I want to thank the people who were able to share their experiences. I want to tell them that I hear them and that I see them. Every single person that spoke on Tuesday had at least one thing in common. They all said they loved Temecula. Every single person. It's why we're all here. I love Temecula. It's why my husband and I came back. It's the city that we chose to root in. That is the foundation I believe that is for all of us. I hope we can build on it from there. I look forward to seeing what the REDI committee does, and I want to be involved in any way I can. Thank you.
That was 5 minutes.
I had my timer. It was actually 3 minutes. Next speaker is Julie Mazurazik, last in person.
It's tough, I get it. It's Majarzik. Okay, let me begin by saying that I am someone that vehemently opposes anything that focuses on race. Thus, my immediate thought is to oppose this commission. However, I am also a person that does their own due diligence before making a decision. I have attended a couple of city council meetings, and I have listened to the opposition, the support, and the council members. Thus, I am here now to listen to you. I know what my head and heart say, but I'm here to listen. That being said, while doing my due diligence, I read the posted agendas. I read posted agendas and open and read all of the attachments. I'm a bit frustrated by the information that I read for this meeting. While the agenda is quite short, there were two things glaringly absent to me. The posted demographics detailed the racial, economic, age, gender, and education makeup of our city. Where's the rest? Temecula is so much more than that. I'm the president and founder of the Disability Sports Foundation, and I'm also a veteran of the U.S. Navy. According to the U.S. Census data for 2019, Temecula's population includes 7,115, or 6.2%, of individuals living with a disability, 8,769, or 13.08%, veterans. In Riverside County, those numbers are 7.5% and 5%, respectively. Those two underrepresented groups often overlap with an ever-increasing number of wounded warriors in our community, of which my husband is one. Mr. Faulkner, I understand that you are a veteran and worked with the Veterans Administration and have a passion for their issues. So I was very disappointed to see that there is no data on your agenda to address that part of our community. It is no secret that former Mayor Mike Nagar was an amazing voice and champion for those in our community living with a disability. I fear now that upon his retirement, that focus will be diverted to other groups. This year, the Eagle Source splash pad and playground was only reserved for our special needs family once a week from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. from July 15th to August 5th. The city paid $1.2 million to build that park with our special needs families in mind, yet those that it was built for were only able to truly enjoy it. And the only city park that has a water feature could only enjoy it for four times for 1 hour each over the course of a year. Previous years, access was still inadequate, but at least special needs families had exclusive access for 2 hours once a week in the summer and once a month in the fall. These families have children that often have conditions that are not conducive to the usual chaos of that park. I have a son on the autism spectrum, and we used to enjoy that park during special needs hours. Now it's not worth going anymore. And when it's 100 degrees outside, going on another...
That's 3 minutes.
I thought I had 5 minutes if I was speaking on the agenda.
Ma'am, if you're speaking on an agenda item that's listed. Are you speaking on an agenda item?
That's what I wrote on the form. I said number 2, which is on your agenda as number 2.
What is that in relation to what she's talking about? Snippet 2.
Yes, she actually did put agenda item number 2. So I think we do need to give her the extra 2 minutes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now it's not worth going to that park anymore, and when it's 100 degrees outside, going to another park is not possible. On behalf of my foundation, I welcome the opportunity to partner with the city to resolve this disparity. In conclusion, if this commission is truly about equity and inclusion, and not just race, as I and many others assume, prove it by ensuring that all groups in our community are included in your discussions, not just the ones that yell the loudest or are trending on social media. Thank you.
I'll go ahead and read the emailed comment that was submitted.
Okay, thank you.
It's from Jeff Pack. Dear Commissioners, I wanted to take the opportunity to submit a letter of appreciation for the positive and progressive work that you're doing by volunteering yourselves for this commission. I realize the vile and epically misguided commentary by some of our city's residents, and mostly from those who do not live in Temecula, may have had you questioning whether it was prudent to put yourselves in a position to be attacked. Even if those attacks were false, slanderous, likely libelous, and saddening, let me assure you what you are doing for our city is needed, necessary, admirable, and appreciated by our family. As your regular old Southern California white family, we have never been blind to the obstacles that are stacked in the way of our underrepresented communities. At the same, we are cognizant of the privileges we are afforded where others are not. Equally, we have witnessed this community continue to diversify itself, requiring representation at the local government level in order to better be included in our city's story moving forward. That's why I write today and why we support this commission. This city has been changing for 15 years, and it's time for our city to shed the old ways and really drive toward the future. That can only happen when fueled by diverse and forward-thinking individuals and teams that embrace our cultural differences and place great value on the varied ideas, cultural flavors, and influences that come with them. The city cannot go backward, and you are just one of the driving forces that we will take us forward. In those hardest of times, remember that your involvement will be remembered for generations to come, and it's appreciated. That's it for public comments.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, we'll go on to the consent item. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from July 8th meeting?
Motion to approve. Oh, second.
Erica, would you do the roll call?
Yes, I have a motion by Commissioner Pastorian and a second by Vice Chair Huerta. Chair Baker,
Aye.
Commissioner Faulkner,
Aye.
Commissioner Harris,
Aye.
Vice Chair Huerta. Aye. Commissioner Pastorian,
Aye.
and Commissioner Steed's absent. Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Now we're going to move to the business item number 2, consider underrepresented community populations, identify barriers, and provide general recommendations for enhanced communications. So I'm going to walk us through what we're going to do here today. And before we go with what we're going to do, I would like to ask the City Council to give us more time. This is a very complex question from City Council member Alexander, and now to the whole commission, that we are eager to answer. We want to do a good job. And as of last week, as of Tuesday, we didn't know if we were going to exist, what was going to change. And now that we have established that we're going to be here and that there is some work for us to do, we would like to ask the City Council to hear some of our recommendations today, but can we bring this back on future agendas? Because the census information will be out soon to answer the gentleman's question about what data are we looking at, to answer the young lady's question about what more information should we look at. We also agree. We want more data, and we'll be having that data soon, probably next month, right?
Yes, Chair Baker, actually, the preliminary census data was released today. However, that is not usable data for us.
Okay.
It is for broader application. That data now goes to the individual states. And as mentioned before, the individual states, for us, they will go ahead and adjust that data to go ahead for prison populations. So go ahead and assign to the last known residential addresses. And then we will go ahead and get our adjusted Temecula data with which we will do redistricting and with which, if the city council gives us additional direction, do additional work in this space as well. Today is really about a higher level discussion and not so much the details because we simply don't necessarily have the information and the data to go ahead and have those detailed discussions. We also know that the census data will be further used by state agencies and federal agencies, including, for example, the Department of Veteran Foreign Affairs and Department of Veteran Affairs to go ahead and do additional data sets themselves in specific communities, in age groups, so on and so forth. So that is a great way to bring additional data back as well.
Thank you for that. So what I would like to offer is, we heard a lot about meeting in the middle. I think data is a great place to meet in the middle because it's just there for everyone to see, everyone to examine, and everyone to draw conclusions that we can all have a dialogue about that's not reflective of someone's character or their intent, but we can sink our teeth into, now how do we address this? Or how do we remove this barrier? And then we can also have community feedback because we're bringing information to you. We want you to know about your community as well. That's a part of our role here. And I also agree and hear about the fear. You know, the scripture says fear brings torment, but God has sent us peace. So we want to bring peace in our city and not torment. So anything we can do, sitting here answering questions, and that's why I'm asking for more details, because in my world, data is all we are driven by. We're nonprofits. You need data to get a funding. You need data to prove why you're providing a service. You need data to say that you've polled your community. So when I sit here, I'm bringing that skill set, and I'll be giving my recommendations based on that. But we have professionals here in their respective genres, and they're going to give their feedback of where they see barriers. But we have no solutions until we can look at more data, and then the city council can give us direction. So is that fair, everyone? Is that fair that we can have that conversation high level today? And so also what we're going to do is we're going to answer 3 questions for the city council. The first question is to identify the segments of the community that may be underrepresented. In an effort to give everyone an opportunity to weigh in and not repeat over and over and to data collect, what we're going to do. So let's say if you, Commissioner Wilson, you bring a barrier. All of us will answer the question if we have feedback about that segment. Then number 2, we'll identify potential barriers to full participation or access to service and programs for each segment. And number 3, the opportunities for future engagement and community with each segment. And so it doesn't matter who brings the barrier, everyone on the commission can weigh in if you have something to weigh in. So then that barrier is exhausted. Does that make sense? And it'll be easier to follow along with the conversation and as well as to extract the information. So do we have any questions, commissioners? Okay, well, let's jump right in. Which way, who wants to go first? To this, what, ladies first. Ladies first.
Thank you so much, Chair Harris. I did want to chime in because I was looking over the snapshot that we got for Temecula, and then also I had some other documents that I wanted to share. But some of the demographics or some of the underrepresented, I noticed from the report, is our poverty level. As I look at the report, I see that we have like 3.61% families below poverty level with children. I think that's an area that we can focus on. And also single moms with children. That was another percentage that was pretty low that I looked at. And I know I've been speaking with some people. Rancho Adamo, just as an example, they have homes where there are moms with kids, and they need a lot of direction, they need a lot of support, and there is a program they're trying to get together, and of course, I was sent the email, something that they thought I would really be able to help out, would be very good with. It's called Faith and Finances. And this is a program, they're just trying to start to get it on the ground. But this program, they're hoping that it will be able to help the single moms with their kids, with their, not only their faith and just inspire them and strengthen and encourage them, but also help them with their finances, to build their finances, to help build their FICO score, to help them with money management, to help them set up an account. So when they leave Rancho Adamo, they're on a solid foundation to be able to excel in our society. And that's just something that I just wanted to present to the committee, and I can gather more information on it. But if we're looking at barriers, and if we're looking at areas of people that are underrepresented or need our support, I think this is one of them that we could definitely look more into. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So does anyone else have any, well, I would like to chime in on the first underrepresented group that you spoke of, which is single moms.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to add that to single parents, because men are single dads as well. I
Correct.
actually have helped a few and worked with a few. And that is what I feel is a barrier, is the bias of only women can provide, or that's in their children's lives are providing. So a lot of the services that are geared towards single parents are usually geared towards single moms. So that's a barrier in and of itself, not having programming that is specific to parents, of single parents, and not one gender. And also, as it relates to single parents, having culturally sensitive programming, and I speak of that in particularly for single parents with minority boys in particularly. And then if we add your other dynamic of poverty,
Yes.
that's another barrier. So would anyone like to speak on single parents, anything you want to add to the conversation? So I've identified, because we want to keep this, we've identified one group as single parents, moving from single moms to single parents. The barriers that I've identified and Denise has identified is the lack of economic stability or help with that, in addition to programming that addresses male and female in that space. Did I miss anything?
So on that, I just want to add another subgroup in there would be the multi-generational family and the lack of support sometimes that we see with those families and resources. So that might be something as well as to include as you start to look at it. Those single parents, if they don't have family locally, may have to reside with extended family in order to help support or take care of children and such. And so that is something that we should consider as well.
So any more on single parents and family dynamics with children? Because that
Yes.
seems like multi-generational families. I would say kinder care. We don't think about children. Not all children have parents, and not a mom or a dad, but a relative is taking care of them. So again, kinder care services as well.
Yes, Chair Baker, along those lines, I was going to mention these single parents with children and having those resources for childcare, and just that goes along with the economic needs, and just having those resources available for them if they need to work 2 jobs. How are they going to afford that kind of childcare and different programs of that nature?
Especially when people are working to pay one job, sometimes it's more economical, and people are finding themselves in situations where it's more advantageous for one parent to stay at home because they're working a job just to pay for childcare. It's not going into their budget. And so,
I was just going to add to that, as you start to look at that, I know sometimes in our minds, we have a very fixed idea of what a single parent might look like or represent, but there are situations where we have teen parents and teen pregnancies and all of those things, and that is a group that we should look to support as well as we look at this.
have we exhausted parenting? Well, because I put, I think, have we moved to teens, or we're just still talking about, because if you're going to bring on teens, that's a whole nother dynamic. So
Yeah.
before I go on, did you
no.
want to jump in on?
I was just going to jump on the teens, sorry.
No, so we, Denise, did we address, do you have any more to add?
Yes, I did. Thank you, Chair Baker. I was looking at our military spouse. There are some that are single, military men raising family, military women, but oftentimes our military families feel left out. And when their spouse has to go on deployment, it's like, what are we doing to support them, or how can we be a voice for them? So that was another one that I had on my list.
So we're still staying in the vein of parenting right now. We're identifying subsets within the parenting, because I think so we have teen parents, we have the barrier of gender identity with parents, so then it would be remiss of me not to bring in LGBT parenting, because one of the things I've often wondered, because the community has been so polarized and ostracized, is how are they receiving services? How are we reaching into them? That's just been my personal thought. That's just a personal heart for the community to say, how are we serving those families with children? So to make sure their needs, their social and emotional needs are met, making sure when you add on, when we're talking about barriers, the more you add, the more the barrier. We started off saying a single parent, single moms, because that's what Rancho Damasita is focused on, single moms, right? Just that one issue alone. And now we've added, well, now we have to consider that it's just not women, it's men. So now even changing our language, because that language is a barrier. Saying, not that she was saying as a barrier, I'm saying in general, to be more welcoming, to say we have single parent classes or single parent support. But then if you add different subsets like they're a teen, now you have different barriers, although we're still talking about parenting. So we can exhaust, and we won't do that today. But I just want the community to know when they ask such questions, please be ready for the depth of the answer, because on any subject matter, it's very complex if you want to address a problem. So in terms of parents, teens, I want to go back to the teens because we've seen an increase of teen pregnancies. And whether you believe in that or not, that's not here for a moral compass. We're here to say, how can the city provide support to teen parents? Because they're the underrepresented, I think, because they need the most skills. They're teens, and now they're taking on the big responsibility of parenting. And some of us are older and still trying to figure it out, let alone being a teen, so that's another barrier that we want to consider when we're thinking about parents, because we don't think about teens when we think about parents. And so, Ivy, would you like to jump off on teen barriers? Since you
General teen barriers or teen parent barriers, or
well,
just
if
in
we've
general?
exhausted parenting issues, do you think we've exhausted parenting issues?
I think
Single parenting issues.
I mean, I think I have one thing to add on that, is just ensuring that individuals have access and know how to maneuver public benefits.
Yes.
That is an extreme barrier for some individuals, the time in which it takes to learn how to do it, and also it can be extremely complicated. Having the correct identification that you need to even get those benefits can be complicated. Having a way in which the community supports or the city supports having any type of program to teach how to maneuver that system, I think would be really awesome.
That's a great
In that
idea,
case.
because I was thinking along those terms for military, definitely.
And I think to answer the question here, identify opportunities for further engagement. You know, I've been thinking about this, and one of the things I think that we can simply do on all platforms is have an announcement at each meeting. This weekend, like, for example, you know, I probably shouldn't no, never mind. Like this weekend, the community is having some events, and she usually texts me and say, "Are you going to an event?" Well, I will be the resident that says, "I never get anything from Temecula." That's not true. I get the emails because I've signed up. Thank you for your marketing. So keep marketing it on your social medias, on your that presentation you guys did. I said, I got the right one. I'll take it now. Because I had been hesitant because it was 2 apps for Temecula. And so, you know, it's just weird. You know, I'm weird here. But my point is, maybe we can keep announcing every week on whoever's platform, this is upcoming in the city, especially those programs that we want the populations that we're not reaching or that are not participating in to just another way. Maybe we can do that. That's a simple suggestion. Make announcements on big events that's coming up, you know, especially for families.
I think that is a really good idea, but I think about my family. My brother was a teen parent, and I grew up alongside his child's mother, who was also a teen, and I'm thinking about how they maneuvered getting access to public services and how they would engage with the city. I'm not sure an announcement from the city would reach the targeted populations we're trying to reach. I'm thinking of ways that maybe we could explore really targeting those populations, because I don't think that their first thought was, let me go on the city webpage or the city website and see what's there.
I would think, I agree with you, and I think that is kind of defined under community partnerships, right? When we start looking at how you partner with certain entities to provide the resources that are needed for these particular groups. And subsects of our community, absolutely. But I think that's where we can certainly be helpful in terms of identifying some of these issues and then looking at those community partners who we can get together with and start sharing those resources to those people and certainly provide that advisement to the city council.
And the app is fantastic. I was on there today. The app is just really, every city, every meeting, look, you will never have to miss a meeting. You don't have to worry about what we're doing. Just click your phone and look at us. I mean, it's really good. Get the app. Okay, I would like to add, to stay on teens, but a different aspect of teens, if we may. Is that okay?
That's fine.
I want to make sure you were.
Oh, I'm good.
Because you brought my favorite group up, you know, kids, teens. So I would like to add on teens in particularly, a group, addiction, teen addiction. We help a lot of kids that are dealing with addiction. And if I may be honest in this space with this community, when we ask what barriers are, it's very difficult for people to stand up and say, this is where I need help. And so these type of committees are needed. And I would tell you a little short story about why I'm saying this. I've been here and been a service provider in this valley for over 20 years. And anytime I've tried to address any of these issues like teen addiction, no one shows up. No one shows up because it's a taboo thing in Temecula to have a problem. I'm just telling you the truth. This is my experience. This is how I've served. So I've had to create programs that are palatable for the community. But once they get in, you see the pain. You see the hurt. In one of our programs, we were doing vision boards because I'm big on kids having a vision for their lives. I'm a former foster youth, for those of you that don't know. And I was at this foster youth population and providing this vision board. And the little girl put on her board, I'm 52 days sober. It wasn't an addiction class, it was a vision class. But if I had to put, we're here serving teens with addiction, no one would have showed up, no one would have supported, no one would have sent their kids, and no one would have wanted to admit. And so I think providing safe spaces and finding organizations that really work on the social and emotional well-being of individuals and families where they can get support. I heard a lot of cruel things of people, we're not your counselors. We're not the counselors. But if we don't deal with the needs and the pain of the community, then it becomes all of our problems, because then it shows up in other places. And so I just really, my heart breaks for those that no one sees. Like that little girl that was 52 days sober. And she found a place, and we were able to give her more resources and support her. And now that class has been 2 years, and she's still sober, because now we knew a real issue by bringing something that was acceptable. So the barriers to be vulnerable is here as well. And we need to make that more common, that we all need help at some point. And we are all a community to support each other. And I'm speaking for the teens' mental health. The teens are really suffering, they're cutting, they're hurting, but no one is providing that depth of service. That's a barrier, because kids shouldn't have the problems that we have, but they do, and some. So I'm here to plead on behalf of the children that are not seen, the ones that are not academically succeeding, or those that are academically succeeding, but they go to schools that are highly pressurized, and so they're suicidal because they want to fit in, and one bad grade. You don't know how many kids I've had to talk out of suicidal ideations because they go to a certain school and the grades is so competitive, but we're not seeing the kids. And so this is not my soapbox, but this is the first time you've really got a chance to see why I'm sitting here. It's for the kids. They need a voice. They need people to say to them, they're hurting, and they need you to see beyond their age, to see them as people. And that'll remove a barrier. That'll remove a big barrier.
I agree with you. Those that sit on the commission with me know that this is one of those passions that Chair Baker and I both share, is children and what it is to work with them at any age group as a child, and see what it is that they go through every day. That is something, I am in an environment every single day with kids. I see that, and I can tell you, absolutely, you were right. Going back to that original piece of teen addiction, that is something that's very personal to me. I have a family member of my sister who started off as a young teen, pressurized, and got into addiction. And unfortunately, I have no contact with her today because of that. She's alive, and that is a blessing in and of itself. But it is something that has taught me that you have to provide the resources. And even then, it takes a village to really lift up children who are suffering. And the reality is that those teens' addiction in that particular sense can come from a lot of different places, including sometimes those who are self-medicating. And that is something that just spirals out of control. So going back to that, I think that is a barrier. And I want to take the moment to, and I appreciate Rick's comments earlier, actually, because one of the things that he talked about was the barriers. What does that look like? And I just want to say, a barrier, for us and our purposes here really identifies a challenge or an obstacle. And that's another word kind of for what we're trying to figure out. And I think that helps. And so when you start to look at what is a challenge or an obstacle for anybody, and how we can remove that obstacle for access or opportunity, or for people to continue to move ahead and strive and reach certain things in this community and have all the wonderful things that our community provides, that's really important. And so our teens and those that have issues, mental health issues, social and emotional, which we're going to see a lot more of since school has just started, that resource, we need to figure out a way. And going back to community partnerships, as Ivy and I kind of had that moment right there, I think that's important as we start to tread this water, especially now. Now is the time to start to work on that, because it is going to be something that we're dealing with. And I have, like I said, this is my environment. This is sort of what I do. To watch a middle school faculty and student body grieve over the suicide of somebody in middle school. That's 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. It's a very painful place to be, and if we could do anything to try to prevent that, provide that resource, then we're making the difference that we want to see. And that's really important. So I share that with you, and I think that we need to look at how we can start to move that, in terms of resources for those things. And I have to say, like you said, sometimes people are afraid to talk about what is so hurtful or something that we just want to, it can be embarrassing. It's embarrassing to say that addiction is something that is in your family when you are a parent who has a great job. You're a doctor, a lawyer, or a salesperson at a local place. It doesn't matter. And then you have a child who is struggling. This is something that you have that barrier. So that becomes the barrier, right? You don't want your peers to know that exists in your family, and that perception of what your family is not real. It's not authentic. So how we can, I think, create and remove that so more people can come to the city and provide those resources so we can reach and have further extended reach into certain organizations, whether it be the school or doctors, and how, hospitals, and partnering in that way to provide that opportunity is going to be very crucial as we move forward.
I just wanted to add that you brought up an extremely important point, and I think the conversation that we're having tonight is really important when it comes to destigmatizing mental health. What that will mean for a lot of not only teen and youth, but even adults. And just us being in a position in which we could suggest avenues in which people can seek help, seek resources, and maybe we could find a way. A lot of people, sometimes when they think about therapy, the first thing that they say is, I can't afford that. I don't have health insurance. Or I don't know how to access, statewide, supported health insurance. That's a barrier to some people. And no one should have to suffer with depression or any type of mental health because they can't afford the resources needed. So I think it provides an immense opportunity to ensure that others know what's out there.
And affordable services,
I think, Ivy, and I just want to mention that I think you're absolutely right, because when we look at these things, when, we talk about insurance and affordability and all that, and there was a woman who spoke on Tuesday night, and there was a point where it just resonated with me. She talked about how she kind of falls into this middle place where you don't qualify, right? You're working and you're doing all of the right things, but you don't qualify for the aid. You make too much, right? And which is silly because you don't make enough to survive. So you're in this really weird bracket, and you sort of you get left behind. That is a very underrepresented group that unfortunately needs to be better represented.
And I will consider myself to be in that underrepresented group. We just recently received full custody of my husband's 3 children, and they needed mental health services. They've been through a lot. That's my other thing. Kids of divorce, they go through a lot. They have to go to school in a community where it's 2 parents, and so what happens to the ones that don't? Not every marriage makes it. And we found a therapist that was willing to see all 3 of our kids and charge us a flat fee and interchange them, because that's how expensive therapy is. And we have insurance, but they weren't on our insurance, and we couldn't afford to put them on our insurance. And so how do we give them the services they need and the support they need for the things they've been through? And we work 2 jobs. We serve our community. Mental health services is the lack of resources to not the poor, but the people that's in the middle is a barrier. And I would stand up and raise my hand for that. And it was through a lot of negotiating and saying, can you help us? And we found the therapist that was willing to help us. But I think all 3 children need their own services. They need their own services because they've all experienced things that have caused them pain individually. But right now, I just don't have the wherewithal, my husband and I, to do it. So we're making the do with what we have. So I'll lay my soul bare, maybe put a face to it, you know. People need help. We need help.
Thank you so much, Chairwoman, for sharing your personal experience with that. And I wanted to touch on something that we briefly addressed, which is the ways in which a lack of access to these mental health services and resources affect not only the individual, but our community. When we speak a lot about the homeless population in Temecula, it's a lot of people who are suffering from mental health issues. And personally, for me, I've seen individuals that I've personally grown up with and that I've seen in our high school or in my high school, and I've seen my brothers, you know, much older than me, some of the people that were around or from our neighborhood who ended up on the street with mental health issues. Yeah. When we have conversations about homelessness, it's, you know, individuals who are in our neighborhood and might be leaving trash or might be in places that are inconvenient, but they're our citizens, they're our people. These were our children at some point. That's why it's extremely important that when you address teens and children, that we ensure that they have access to resources, they feel comfortable talking about their mental health and what they need. Because in the end, it ends up being our children, our citizens on the street.
Yeah. I would chime in on there. I want to give a shout out real quick to Mike Wooten and the Swag and Hot team. I had an opportunity to roll up my sleeves, pull out my gear, and walk the beat with them. We were on the bridges, walking over feces, walking over trash, to really go out and identify and spend some time with them to see who these people are. They're an underrepresented part of our community as well. We really need to understand how we get to people before they lose hope and
Right.
and before they lose the opportunity to feel like they don't belong to our society. And I'm not saying every homeless person that's here in Temecula is from Temecula, but I understand that in our community they're there, and I know our citizens are concerned about it because it's the areas are being trashed out. There's some security issues. And there's some health issues for them as well. And a lot of that, when you're talking about homeless, you're talking about substance abuse, mental health, and lack of a place to go, and then food to eat. So it is one of our segments we need to look at because we need to figure out how do we reach them. And I know it's not an easy conversation and an easy way to get there because many people have walked that and tried to figure that out, but I think that is an underrepresented part of our community that we really need to look at. I can tell you the Swag and Hot team, initially when they took over, I think Mike was saying that before they were able to get 4 people off the street, when they came back in and hit it heavy, got the staff, they were able to get almost 30 homeless people off the street. That's a huge gap that was closed, and they're doing an amazing job. But guess what? Many of our youth and many of our citizens find themselves in that position where they could be there. And that affects every demographic. I saw women out there homeless. I saw kids homeless. I saw people of different colors homeless. So it's not affecting just one subset of our community. It's something we need to really look at and really figure out how do we provide the resources and education to that particular segment of our community that finds like the only place they feel safe and is in the homeless arena, but I know that's associated with mental health, and I know that's associated with substance abuse. So another area and segment that we really need to take the time to really find out what's going on there. So I just wanted to add to that conversation as well.
Commissioner Faulkner, I applaud you for doing what you did and going out there and checking it out yourself. You were not afraid to get your hands dirty.
I'm a military man, so it doesn't bother me.
You
so
are.
I'll stay
And
out there
I
all
love
day.
that. It's my favorite part about you. But I hear exactly what you're saying. But I want to also, I think, acknowledge the other piece of it, right? The other side of where people may see things. I know how we see things, but there is also the piece of that's a group of people that may choose to do that, or that's an underrepresented group. Certainly, that is kind of the stigma of our city. And I have to tell you, the reality is that is not necessarily true. I think that is a perception. But one of the things that I think stands out to me is that we have to continue to try to reach those people. We don't stop. We continue to try. And that is the piece. Whether those choices for those individuals are made for themselves or not, we have to continue to try with the hope and prayer that they will one day change their place and continue to be a different part of our community. So, but I think that you bring up a really good point. It absolutely is. But I think we have to acknowledge both sides of where people might stand on that or perceive that, and understand that what our role is here is to continue to provide those resources, continue to do that outreach, because we have to keep trying. We don't stop.
Well, and I agree with you on that, because there is no place I want to go in this city for our citizens, no matter who they are and where they come from. So I don't mind being uncomfortable and getting a little dirty, because I think it's necessary and I think it's needed for us to be able to understand. We need to start looking from the other person's lens. And when I go to a situation like that, looking at our homeless, I put myself in their body and try to look at it from their perspective. I don't go in labeling, pointing fingers, or trying to really, put them down. I'm going to have a conversation with them just like I would have a conversation with anybody else off the street. So that's how we get to understanding how do we reach this underrepresented group, not only in this aspect, but all the others we'll identify tonight as well. So, thanks.
Okay, so it's a lot. That's why, first of all, we're not gonna exhaust the list tonight. I'm already tired. And we just started, and I know you all have been here all night, and that's why I said we need to come back. So what I would ask to do right now is, can we get a good list? Can we get a good list going? Because we can build on that, right? Oh, you like that idea, Randy?
Yes, I actually do. So and we will listen again. The purpose of tonight is really to have exactly what is happening, a high-level discussion. And you've already identified 3 particular groups. I have single parents, I have teens and children, and I have the homeless segment. So we already have 3 groups identified, and you have broadly talked about what some of the barriers may be. You've broadly talked about the desire to do outreach. You've talked about really making sure that we are communicating with the stakeholders in the community and the community providers to work with them, because they are the ones that provide the direct resources, but we are the ones that serve as that link to that and that access for those services. So bridging that gap. So I would urge you to continue to identify the main groups and have general conversation, and then we will be taking back to the city council, here are the broader groups, here are the broader thoughts, and seeking direction to go ahead and continue working on this to match up the data sets.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just getting the app, remember? So I don't want to be the resident and say you're not doing something that you are, because I haven't looked. So I don't know if it's on there, but if it is, a resource page where some of these, but the resource page to be broken out like we're discussing. So then, if there's teen issues where people are looking to service teens or to get involved with teens or receive teen services, then possibly to have that on the website like that. So then it's a resources, but then these are resources like, for example, we received a grant to provide some of these mental health services. I think it would be prudent to say, here's a place where you can go and get a 90-minute free family counseling session. That's more than what people are receiving now, and we know that mental health is on the rise. And so I also want to say why this commission is needed, not because I'm here, but just in general, is because the needs of the community is ever evolving. COVID brought us a very unique situation to look at that we hadn't looked at before. People have been locked into, I'm bringing you the social and emotional thought process here of those of us that work with the families directly of what we are now facing and how we have to service them, which is mental health. Mental health issues of being locked up. I know I heard Councilmember Alexander speak about that at one of her meetings. And I was like, yes, we need to get some more mental health services to the families because now we've been locked in for 18 months. Whether you agree with it or not or why, I'm not here for that argument. But what I'm concerned about is not how are we coming out. You know, if we didn't have coping skills going in, to be locked in the home with an abuser, to be locked in the home with a molester, to be locked in the home, these are what our kids have been facing, and we need to be prepared to catch them. So this commission also can keep their finger on the pulse of the ever-changing needs of the community, because we may not have demographic information, but I can tell you as a service provider of families, this is what families are facing. Their children have really taken a hit coming out of the quarantine. The family structure has taken a hit. So many families didn't have the skills before they went into quarantine, and now they had to live 18 months coping in a new environment. People need services, and that's what this does.
I agree. And I think that also we need to do partnerships because that'll bridge that gap. And then providing the service, team up with different organizations to help provide the service in the areas that are undeserving or underprivileged. That's the key.
And Chair Baker, I would like to stay on that topic number one, and I want to identify two segments and talk about them. It's what, I forgot your name, and when you talked earlier, I really want to make sure we talk about a segment that's underrepresented, which is our veterans, 11% of the population, and also I want, if Commissioner Pistorian can talk about our disabled
It's
and
on my list.
I want those, because those are two critical ones, but let me speak to the veterans. So 11% of our population, and before I transitioned out the military after 27 years, I was a Command Master Chief at the Naval Hospital Camp Pendleton, spent most of my time at the Marine Corps, so I did have some working with the Wounded Warriors on Camp Pendleton and ensuring that their transition was good when they got out. But the challenge is when they get out, how does that connection continue to stay? And how do we as a city really make sure that there's a link with our veterans who are dealing with PTSD, who are dealing with severe injuries from war in our community? I think Temecula has done a great job in celebrating our veterans with months. I mean, with Memorial Day, Veterans Day, and all through the year, we recognize them across this Old Town with our placards we have up about them. But one of the things is how do we continue to just make that connection with them when they transition? I'm not here speaking on the VA. I do work for the VA, and I work in community engagement, which means really connecting the VA with community leaders, because unfortunately, VA can't be everything and everywhere for every veteran, and sometimes that needs to be a community of support around our veterans that connects our VA with our veterans to continue to ensure they have access to not only health care but benefits as well. And what are we doing in our city to ensure that that continues to happen, and how we continue to make a connection? Because there's some wounds that you can't see. And when we talk about mental health, that's a big piece of this as well. And how do we continue to make that connection within our city to ensure that our veterans are represented and have access to resources we have as a city, access to any state resources that come in, and really make sure they have a connection to the VA. I'm working on a program right now. We're trying to connect veterans to the VA. 11 out of 17 veterans that commit suicide have no connection to VA whatsoever. They have no connection to outside health care. So what happens is now you have them sitting by themselves, trying to figure it out. And then all of a sudden, that leads to hopelessness. And we understand what happens after hopelessness. Once that's gone, you have nothing. So how do we in the city really focus on hitting that underrepresented group, ensuring they understand that we as leadership in Temecula are walking with them to ensure that they walk through the things that they're dealing with, and are really connecting them to other veterans, right? Because the statistics show that if you're connected to someone who has something in common with you, that helps. That helps. Being able to speak the language, being able to, go out and have a conversation and talk about the old days and reminisce. That really helps motivate our veterans who are struggling with things, that connection with other veterans within the community. So how do we build that and ensure that they're connected to resources and connected to each other as a network to ensure that they're continuing to be resilient, continue to be successful in our community, and continue to just grow and in their transition from active duty to veteran status. So I look forward to talking to you after this, if we could, to talk about some things. So thank you.
Commissioner Faulkner, may I add, I learned something, and I hope we're all continuing to learn in this space. I wouldn't say that veterans is my specialty. However, a barrier I've discovered is age discrimination. For veterans, we don't think about young people being veterans. I didn't. When it was brought to my attention, I was like, I just sat there stunned for a moment, like, wow, yes. And then the conversation evolved on, because we don't see them or because they're younger veterans, then the marketing is not geared to them. The resources are not geared to them. What do? How do we help them transition back into our society as young people? And I'm not discriminating against, in my mind, a veteran is a kind gentleman with a nice beard, and we take care of them, and we support. If you all don't know, I love elderly people. Children and elderly, they are just my subset of people. So in my mind, this is what a veteran looks like. That was just totally blown away. Like, you have not even a barrier, but a blind spot to a certain population because you only see it like this. And so I would submit that as a way of examining these things also, of whatever we feel we know that we're open to see differently, because I never thought about a young person as a veteran.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point. Not only that, but our women veterans. Many times people look over them. I've done it. Let me tell you right now, I've done it myself and got called on it. It was a second class I walked up to, and I just, I didn't even ask. But I asked two guys next to her. I said, "Hey, did you serve?" And she looked at me. It's like, I served? I'm like, yeah, I messed up. Did you serve? And then we had a conversation, and she said, I get it all the time. I mean, people don't think I serve. So we have this issue, this stigma, a lot of times because we can't identify women veterans by the way they look if they served. And you can sometimes, most times, men will say I served in the military or whatever. Many times the women won't come out and say it, and then you ignore the fact. So we got to look at that too, because internally that's something we need to make sure, because internally you can see another underrepresented piece. There are women veterans who feel like they are not treated at the same level of our male veterans as well. So, yeah, thanks.
Commissioner Faulkner, I just want to thank you again for bringing up that group. As many of you know, my husband is currently active duty, almost 2 decades. He was here earlier today. But one of the things him and some of his friends mentioned is that they don't know what resources are out there for veterans or for active duty military. So I really appreciate you bringing that up. And a lot of his friends are starting to retire. My husband will be retiring in a couple of years here. So that transition piece that you spoke about is very important, just having programming or some kind of resources for them to, maybe they want experience in another area. I know through a professional organization that I serve on, we have, for example, a free membership for veterans who want to engage with local government officials. And we partner them with, for example, a city manager from a city as their mentor for a while. So those types of programs are very important. And even where I'm working, I'm exploring a veteran internship program of some sort, just because I see that need where they're starting to come out of service, and they want to explore different options. So I really appreciate you bringing that up. And I also appreciate what Commissioner Wilson brought up as far as a veteran or the military spouses, because my husband he was in another state for over 2 years, and I have small children, and it was very hard as a full-time working parent to go to work, drop them off at school, go to work, and then they have sports, and then I needed help picking them up, or I needed help with
their homework. So I didn't really know of any resources, and so it was very hard to struggle with that. And luckily, I got through it. My family is not that close by, so just knowing where those resources are and programming, that would have been very helpful. So I really appreciate you both bringing up that group.
So I just want to Commissioner Faulkner's point earlier, and to the woman who spoke earlier, I want to make sure that we encompass our special needs community and those that are have disabilities as well, and that includes all ages. So and wherever that goes, I want to make sure that we are definitely talking about that. Certainly in providing currently we do as a city provide good resources. We know that we have a high population of special needs here in our city, but I think that we also, there are a lot of other community services in our city that don't necessarily get all the recognition for some of the things that they're providing to our special needs community. So definitely reaching out and getting a list of other organizations that do work in that field so that parents have more resources, or spouses of those who have a special need or disability have more resources as well. For example, one of the things that we see is that there, again, in special needs, there is a wide variety of what you might see. And sometimes it falls in an area where, especially in education, those kids need tutors. They need special people who are able to work with them, who have a background or understanding or patience and compassion, to be able to work with our special needs community, to provide them a little extra help outside of their academic environment that we know that they're in for the 6 hours. So we want to make sure that we try to get that in there maybe somehow. Another thing where is, we do a good job of providing, I know we have a special needs baseball team in our community, we have a Kick for Nick and a lot of soccer things, and I know the Nicholas Foundation is great, and there's a lot of those things as well. But what about other things? I don't know that we are pushing the limits in terms of programs that we have, and we should explore, certainly as a city who has phenomenal leaders, providing leadership opportunities for those in special needs and giving them an idea of, just like we have our Youth Advisory Council, a special needs a group or special education group that could come and be exactly that and have that same level of exposure and be inclusive in that idea as well. So that would be a way to further not having a barrier, but provide opportunity as well. Again, I don't know that people, because I'm not a parent of a special needs child, so I don't know, but I work with special needs children every single day, and I know that it is a struggle for those parents to get up in the morning, to get their kiddos ready to go to school, or even to go out shopping is a task sometimes, or not wanting to attend certain activities because of the fear of what their child could have an outburst or something publicly, and what do we do, and all the things that have to go along with that, and trying to deal with that. So providing those resources, I think, is something, and even not in maybe resources, but also a safe environment where if that happens, it is okay. And everybody knows that it is okay for it to happen because that's just what it is. That's the world. So I think that is something that, we can look at as well. One of the other things that I thought about is even in community services and all of the wonderful things that we provide here, and we have a lot of great activities, but, a parade or an evening out in Old Town for Christmas and stuff, or 4th of July can be incredibly overwhelming to somebody who potentially is on the spectrum, depending on where they are on the spectrum. And not every child is the same, but, or adult, right? Because our autistic children grow up and they become autistic adults. And so keeping that in mind, how are we giving that same level of pleasure and experience, to them that everybody else is getting? So perhaps something like, a early walkthrough for our special needs community, or even our seniors who it is too much for them to go through, be out late and get out of the car and walk all these ways, but to still see the floats and to still experience all of that. How can we bring that still to them, so that they're participating and contributing to our community too. Even, things like our art walk outside is chalk drawings and all of that is beautiful. But what about perhaps art that is tactile for those who have sensory issues, who need to touch? Could we create something completely different that we have never seen before, that our kids and adults who might have that propensity could explore and appreciate, and the rest of us can be awed by what they're capable of doing? These are just a little bit of things on how we have not even scratched the surface in terms of what we can bring as a collective group, as a community together, to continue to provide enrichment for all of the special needs community. And I feel strongly about that, nurturing and caring and compassion and all of those things that go into educating, all of those things that go into our special needs community while they are young, makes a big difference to our special needs community as adults, because they are going to be adults. And so, and I know that our city has wonderful programs where we partner, and Randy's like, I can speak to that.
I can, and I really want to point out the fact that we have our interim community services director in the audience, as well as Mike Wooten, who Eric called out earlier, and then we have Paula from IT here as well. And so staff is listening. We are hearing. You will be happy to know, Commissioner Pastorian, that we already have special hours for special needs at some of our events already, but certainly some of these things that we are hearing, in fact, one of the things that I heard from you that I didn't even think about, we have a youth and government program that we do every year, and I can easily do it twice a year, once for the AP students of all 3 high schools, like we currently do, and once for the special needs children with their parents.
Yes.
And that is not something that, I would have thought of had you not brought it up.
Right, and I appreciate all that we're doing, and I think, to your point too, I am actively involved in the special needs community, and yet I don't necessarily know that there's those times. So I think we need to extend what it is that we're doing to those communities. We need to do a better job at reaching our families and our schools and all of those community outreach entities that can help further that message, because we have to get that information out there so they know. And I think one of the things too, and this is, again, there's all kinds of different levels, but one of the things as well is we want to be inclusive, and sometimes, keeping our special needs community within their special needs community is not necessarily being inclusive. We want to be able to push them in to, a more general type of environment, a more typical environment with typical peers. And so that is something that when I hear you say that, partnering sometimes with other organizations so that they can come together and have those typical experiences alongside their typical peers. And that is really important as well for them and for the other group as well. We want other children and adults to be comfortable and remove that stigma of interacting or working with those with special needs or disabilities and whatever that is. And again, that's all age groups. Our seniors who start to have, their eyesight starts to go or their hearing starts to go, they start to become a part of a different community, an underrepresented community, because they may need certain aids or resources to be able to allow them to still experience life the same way that the rest of us do and that they once did. And so we have to be able to look at that as well and see how we can merge that in a fully inclusive environment. So even with the leadership, Randy, is, maybe perhaps not, I think, exclusive and in terms of working and setting it up, but also peer-to-peer mentoring, which partnering with them and making that happen. And it would be phenomenal. And again, anything that has to do with special needs or disabilities, I am all in for, and anybody feel free to reach out to me. You can always contact me because that is a passion of mine. So.
I was going to say, I hear your passion. I can see it. I love everything that you said because one of the things that I feel that we need to do more of is partner with different type of locations that are in Old Town. Because when you, like you said, when you're a child with autism, you become an adult with autism. And we need to try and blend them in, but not so like quickly, but maybe have at the GameStop that's on Old Town, have a time where the adults with any type of disability, they have an hour that they can all go there and connect with each other. Maybe a bowling night or something like this is when anyone with disabilities or something like that, to make them feel, because if not, they are underrepresented because they feel that I can't go to the Stampede, I can't go there because there are people that are going to be there that they may not blend with, or they may have a reaction because the music is too loud, but something that will cater to them, because they turn into adults, they're 30, 40, 50 years old. What are we doing for them in our community that help them to see that I'm still responsible and I'm an adult, but I just have disabilities? They should not be, in the mainstream because of that.
And I think one of the key things is, again, the disability, special needs, spectrum, and not specifically, when I use the word spectrum, I'm not speaking just of autism, I'm speaking fully in terms of what that looks like. There's all kinds of different things. And, everything requires a special lens to look at. If somebody wanted to go shopping, but they're wheelchair bound, our streets may be accessible, but is the store accessible? And so now we're looking at, furthering that. Even if you can get in the store, are the aisles wide enough for a wheelchair? There's a lot of things that we don't necessarily look at that need to be looked at. And so, it's certainly, like you said, it's something that we want to provide a good opportunity. And the parents, the parents that, they're parents of special needs children should be applauded. Mm-hmm. They have a wonderful job with their blessing that they have, but they also work really hard in the care that they take with their children, and ensuring that they are bathed and cared for and in school appropriately and academically. There's so many different things that go along with that, and sometimes they just need a break. How can we look at providing them that break? Is it a partnership with another entity within the community to provide that hour and a half, date night, or just a place to go get coffee so they can just decompress for a moment? How can we work with that? So I think that there's a lot of opportunity still. This is again, a passion and something that we have not. I welcome the ideas, honestly. I don't know what I don't know, but it is up to the community and the public to help me know and help me understand what other barriers, certainly as it pertains to special needs and disabilities, that we can identify to work towards, so that everybody can have the enriched and take advantage of the opportunities that Temecula provides.
Well, I would like to jump in right there. We've had a great debate about why race matters. So I want to bring race to the special needs conversation, because it's very important for us to consider having, first of all, awareness, more awareness, because the minority kids are oftentimes not seen as having special needs. They're not even considered if they have special needs, because the bias of their skin color comes first. So before anyone sees the child, they see this is a child that's misbehaving, and not looking to say, is there something else we need to consider? I want to let you know, as a Black person with special needs grandchildren, we were very afraid. What is people going to say about him? Are they going to label him? These are very real things that when you add race onto a subject matter like special needs. To have a special needs child, I like how Mike Nagar said it at his when we were dedicating Friendship Park, it really touched me. He said to have a child that can't keep up with the pace of life, how fast-paced we speak and react, and I may know what's going on, but inside of my body, I can't get the words out. Well, mine is the opposite. A child that has no filter and no regulator. And when it's time to sit down, he can't sit down. But what is that going to do for him in school? Now he's going to be labeled the little bad child. And our fears we said and talked about, is this a death sentence to his future? And if we had anyone to talk to us and say, no, it's not, we were here by ourselves. Because also, culturally speaking, most Black people, most Hispanic people are not saying our children have special needs, because we just don't have time for that. We have to survive, or it's not culturally acceptable. Like, for example, in my family, we didn't talk about mental illness. And if we had talked about mental illness or having a disability, maybe we wouldn't have been abused so much. Maybe people would have saw us different. So I want to bring that as a way, because I also think this commission is to bring enlightenment, not just for the city to do, but for its residents to be more tolerant of each other, because we're hearing each other, we're seeing each other. So I would like to have more awareness material that reaches minorities and what they will be struggling with. It's something as simple as saying, it's okay, you're not alone. Because you see our individual struggles, because we're scared, our children already have a stigma because they're Black, or because they're a minority, or because they're mixed. So whatever it is we want to label people with, that is a concern as a Black person with a Black grandchild, and he's a male, and he talks a lot. And I went to a conference to learn, because I had never dealt with a special needs child before, let alone one in my family. And the trainer said, special needs children do not have that internal filter called Susie the secretary. And the Susie the secretary is to set the limits. You know, we all have internal limits. And when you're a special needs child, especially depending upon what part of the spectrum you're on, those limits you don't have. And she told us as parents, you need to be Susie the secretary and set the limits for your little one, because you have to realize they literally do not have the capacity in their body to stop shaking. I mean, he just bounces and bounces, and if you give him sugar, so we had to learn how to change his diet. We're not nutritionists, right? So even material to help us, to help our families. So it's not just how many special needs programs are we offering. It's, can we also offer resources to help people deal with this very complex subject matter within their family? Because we were all alone. Now, of course, this has been a number of years, and we've learned and we've grown, but when we first found out that he was, and he's high functioning, I didn't know that either. So because his mom is a therapist, that's the only reason we caught it. And we had early interventions, and now he's, you know, still has little ants in the pants, especially now. He's watching. Hello, you know who you are. And so he'll probably, his mom is like, it's time to go to bed. But we had to learn routines we didn't know. We had to cut certain things out. We didn't know how to behave. If someone could teach us or give us a brochure, if you have a child on the spectrum, these are some of the things you should consider from a dietary standpoint. Anything can help. More.
I think, again, sometimes we all support one another. Certainly in the special needs community, there is a strong support system amongst parents and caretakers and such. But even providing or hosting a coffee day or something that would allow people to connect would be crucial when dealing, and that would be with anything really. you know, but certainly as it pertains to those with disabilities, even adults with, you know, honestly, even our seniors who may be struggling in coping with hearing loss or visual impairment. Nobody wants that. You know, nobody wants to lose that. So how do you come together as a support system? And I think offering that support system makes us stronger as a community. And so if we can bridge that gap and provide that, we're bringing something to the community that may not be there, and certainly learning. We're learning about each other, and that is. That's where it starts.
And what did the mayor said? I like it. We're here to make sure no one is excluded based on their race.
You know what, I wanted to add to that, because I know at Rancho Community Church, they have a camp called Joni and Friends, and what they do is they take the kids away, and I think they did it for the weekend, I think it was last month, but this is a time where the parents can have a break, and they do all kind of fun things with the kids, and during that weekend, they feel like they're not disabled or they're different from anybody else. They just love on them. They have all type of activities plans. They do praise and worship, and they came back and showed us a video of what that weekend was like, just to be with all those kids with disability, and it was just so enlightening, and it just breathed your heart, because it's like they deserve that also. So I think we need to partner up. We need to see what organizations are doing things like that, and get that information to parents with kids with disabilities, so we can let them know that we do care as a city, and there are services out there for you. You're not in this alone, and I think that's the key.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add one small thing, because I believe Chairwoman Baker brought up a very interesting point, is that when looking at these different lists of underrepresented groups within our community, oftentimes they're never just one.
Right.
You know, they could be two. You can be Black and disabled.
Right.
You
Which
can
is
be
another
Mexican and
barrier.
LGBTQ. You can be, LGBTQ and disabled.
Right.
A lot of these things are quite complex, and it's just being able to acknowledge those communities and how to address their needs. I wanted to ask if anyone else had anything to add on the special needs before I moved on to the next group.
My only thing is to ask for the safe spaces again, for parents to come without the stigma, and to actually even learn. Since then, it's not my expertise, but now before I judge a child, I pay a different attention. And we just had a family. The kid had been struggling all of his academic career, and he was failing. And we created a learning pod for the kids to come to, although they were distance learning. And we had a chance he had just come to our camps and kind of stayed with us. But as we began to engage him, because now we were in this learning pod, we began to see that he was on the spectrum. But most people working with children or that's in the community, do we even see, do we know any other signs? And we told his mom, and she was like, no. And we're like, yes. But it's like, again, we were giving her bad news. But she changed her mind once she got him diagnosed, because now it all began to click. Oh, that's the reason why this, and that's the reason of that. And to be able to give that parent that understanding to help with that child, now, in my opinion, has changed the trajectory of that child. Instead of him being labeled a troublemaker, or his family not being able to get along with him because they don't understand him. Oftentimes, children and families, and they're the one that has the special need that affect all of the family, and then the other siblings have to now adjust and need support to be kind, to be caring, to be understanding to their special needs siblings. And sometimes we would be in the restaurant and we would have to leave because it would be too much for him. And the other kids would be like, well, we want to have fun. And so then they started teasing, my grandson, his other siblings, and, oh, we can't never stay anywhere because of you. And I just want to make people aware that families are experiencing that. And I would like to offer the community, how do we help our families with that? We can give suggestions, but, you know, we write in for everything. Write in for these type of things and give us suggestions too. It's not just us. We're here to provide the platform for the dialogue, not to have all of the answers either.
Before we, Commissioner Harris, I know you want to go. I just want to make sure, Randy, if we could perhaps look at community, different businesses, or specifically even restaurants maybe, who look at, who have the ambient lighting or
Yeah.
cater to some of the sensory overload type things, and have that, so we can provide a list of our
Yes.
community restaurants that are really sensitive to those issues, and that way parents know they have a place to go.
Commissioner
Yeah.
Pastorian, did you also want to add the hours for special programming? Or I think somebody mentioned the splash pad hours, for example.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I certainly, and one of the things, I mean, I also hear what she was saying earlier, and maybe looking at expounding some of those hours as well.
Yeah,
So,
so I think the approach that we're going to take here as staff today is really have an opportunity to connect with our community services department and get a really good understanding of what we already do, and make sure we get that information out to you first, so that you have an opportunity to review. And then when we go back to the city council for an opportunity to continue to obtain the data sets and get their direction to allow us to continue to work in this space, that's when we'll really start doing more work with identifying specifically what numbers we're looking at for our population and so on and so forth, and identifying which businesses, all of that. I know we have a fantastic viticulture program where we actually provide an opportunity for special needs adults to have gainful employment as adults and gain skills and things like that. So I just want to make sure that we stay kind of in this mode of high level right now, and we will definitely be following up on additional and bringing it back to you guys.
You give me just one more list, just what we've had so far. So now if
Yeah.
anyone feels we're missing anything here, you can add to that list.
Yeah. So again, we are keeping it for the identified groups so far. We're up to 5. So single parents, teens and children. Number 3 was our homeless population. Number 4 was the veteran community. And number 5 was our special needs children and adults. And we've been taking notes, and this meeting will be available to everybody after the fact too. But again, you guys have identified several barriers for these 5 subsets so far that you have, 5 segments of our community that you have identified so far. And you have also identified opportunities for enhanced community engagement. So we are taking note of that as well. This is all under recommendations at this point, so we will definitely be taking all of this to council.
Okay, thank you, Randy. So we have that list. Are we missing any group on the list? Commissioner Harris, did we miss anyone?
I think what I will be recommending will fall under the subset of children and youth or teens. So I just wanted to mention first-generation college students. And potential barriers, is really just access to resources such as scholarships, understanding how to get scholarships, economic access to college prep. That could be extremely difficult for individuals, even with medium income.
Right.
It's extremely expensive. Programs to discuss how to fill out college apps. Mentorship programs, and I want to add the word representative mentorship programs.
Yes.
Because I think that it's really important sometimes to have individuals who look like you or have similar life experiences that can help you navigate applying to schools. Also, I think that there should be a program that's focused on financial literacy, particularly when it comes to financing your secondary education, college, discussing the impact of loans. Yeah, like, that hit me real hard. Those loans. And having a financial plan to pay those off. And just even an acknowledgement of what happens when sometimes your funds aren't stable for all 4, 5, 6 years that you're in college, and sometimes an acknowledgement of resources for emergency finances would be helpful. Access to grants. I know that there's so many, and I know that the city does a really good job at reaching out to the youth and ensuring that they have programs that will help them along those lines. However, much like Commissioner Pastorian said, it's finding a way to extend those opportunities. There's so many things. I know some of my friends and who I went to school with and other members in the community, when I tell them, they're like, when the hell, like, how did that happen? Like, when was that there? Mm-hmm. I didn't know that existed. That would have been really helpful. So finding ways really to ensure that people know the resources that are already there.
Yeah, I agree.
And who's providing them? Because we provide a lot of those classes, and I'm very surprised that you're asking, because those are our staple classes.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, well,
for you,
I didn't,
for you.
I didn't know about them, and a lot of people
and
know
let
about
every
them.
other, people talk about all these other organizations. I try to keep that separate because we're not here to represent one organization. That's why I don't mention the organization up here, but.
And we will be having, I do know that this is actually a passion of Councilmember Stewart's as well. So he actually, through the city manager's office or through community services, there's a financial literacy program that is being developed for adults. So I see, again, Erica back there. And so we will definitely be bringing, we actually have a follow-up item from a couple of months ago that we were supposed to bring all of our youth and workforce development programs back to you all for details.
That's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah. So we will be bringing that back on a future agenda item when we haven't had an opening on our agenda, but I think we might have an opening in October. We are already thinking about a September agenda item, but you may be seeing that in October or November.
Because that's very important to me, because I do sit here to represent youth. That's my industry. That's what we do. And so for me, I don't think that the city doesn't provide wonderful opportunities. Where I see is we need specialized services, and we need the city to work with organizations that it's one thing to provide a program here. It's another thing to address, like I said, if someone comes in and they're dealing with issues beyond what the program is about, do you have service providers that can meet those kids' needs? Oftentimes, that's what we find. We have one event, and it opens up all of these other issues that no one even knew, because our issues don't show well here in Temecula. So I would just say that, for as much as we are doing, no, there's another level of service under that people need as well.
Yeah.
Can I add just one additional group before I move on? It'll fall under the youth group as well, is our LGBTQ plus community, and ensuring that they have the resources to tailored mental health services, because they do experience and they do have high levels of suicide and depression. Access to doctors that are tailored more to their services. I'm thinking about our trans youth. And LGBTQ have high levels of homelessness. So housing services that would also be able to help. Thank you.
I want to just agree with Commissioner Harris on that as well. That is even opportunities or organizations for participation for our LGBTQ plus community as well. And if there isn't one, we should make one. So definitely making sure that they are have that same level of acceptance and a place to have fun as well.
I just,
Oh, sorry, go ahead,
no,
Commissioner.
who was that? No. You haven't talked in a while, so go ahead.
Yeah, you haven't talked at all. Trying to get a list.
I know, I'm trying to get, so along with the financial literacy, I had written down renters, those who want to become homeowners and getting that training for them as well, or that information to them as well. But then I also had, one of my groups was those who have English as their second language, as not their primary language. So that, I think we had a pretty significant percentage according to the snapshot that was sent to us. So I think just having resources available, information available in a language they can understand. And I think I brought this up in another meeting where just being mindful of kind of the wording, because I do know that some folks see proof of residency and they interpret that as something different. And so just ensuring that we're including that group and making sure that they're getting information as well.
And the
in a
information
way
that they can understand. That's what we keep saying, culturally competent resources. That's what we're saying. It's what is going to remove that barrier from that individual from receiving that service or even knowing that that service is aware. And I think seeing yourself represented, seeing brochures or literature in a language in which you can understand and relate to is very important in being inclusive.
Can I add to that? Because I have first-generation children of immigrants. That may be a group that would be interested in assisting for all of those similar reasons. Just access to similar resources. Sometimes there's a parent who doesn't speak English at home.
Correct.
And then kids that's not going to college. You know, every child is not meant to go to college. We need to have career path trainings and opportunities to let children know that they're not less than, or it's not something wrong with them. If every child in Temecula Valley does not go to a four-year university, that doesn't make them a less part of the community. So having trade jobs, learning to pick up a trade, offering more, and we have a wonderful program actually. So I can't wait for you to bring that I do know about it. I'm just bringing it up so we can talk about it more. It's a wonderful program.
Absolutely, and again, this one is a Councilmember Stewart special as well. The construction trades program, all of that, those are things that are near and dear to his heart as well.
I think TVUSD also has a phenomenal CTE program throughout all of their high schools and partnering with them to see what happens beyond, high school in terms of how, as a community, we can further those children's or students' goals in careers.
I'd like to say, as you see, we're discussing this back and forth, but, from my perspective, these things are going to bucket out in a couple of areas, right? So there's societal barriers, institutional, administrative, and personal barriers. So as we're discussing this and when we get to go out and have conversations, we'll be able to identify that. I just want to know, we've been in session getting orientation. So when people want to identify the barriers, we have to be able to do that. And we're having a discussion now, we'll be able to do that and come back. But like in human-centered design, discovery takes a while.
Right.
To be able to get out and have a conversation. It's not going to be something that's going to be immediately identified, but we need to have a discovery phase where we can get out and have conversation and see if what we're saying aligns with the barriers, what we're seeing in the communication with our citizens. So I want to make sure that that's clear. If there's an expectation, the barrier is going to be, right now, it takes time to fill that out, and it takes time to fill our citizens to feel what that is. So I just want to bring that in and just add that to the conversation.
And we hope that our conversation sparks a conversation with you. We hope that these conversations now go back into our community, and something we said here today makes you think differently or see your neighbor differently or have a bit of compassion. Now you want to make me go and volunteer, or not. No, that's I'm not telling the truth. I'm going to tell the truth. I'm not going to volunteer to babysit the kids. I can't do it. But what I maybe can do is pay for a babysitter. Or, get the youth involved and see how they can support each other and maybe give their parents a nice little dinner. There's a lot that we can do. So hopefully these suggestions are coming to the community as well. It's just not incumbent upon the electeds. It's incumbent upon us as a community to rally together and support each other. So hopefully you all can help us and help bring some solutions too. Yeah.
Chair Baker, may I also add the older adult community?
Yes.
Yes,
You know they my special seniors.
yes.
So I think we have a good list. I think we've done a good job here today in discussion. Randy, is that good enough to go on with?
Yeah, no, we have, so for kind of like the bigger segments of the community as underrepresented that you have identified, and obviously there's a lot of nuances under
Within
each
them,
one.
right.
But single parents, teens and children, veterans, our homeless population, our special needs children and adults, our English as a second language and first-generation immigrant communities, our renting segment of our community who want to be homeowners. And this is, I know we heard some comments the other day about affordable housing and all of that. So I've already made a note about that. I think we can put that under that subset as well, which may be our service industry as well. And then the last bucket is our senior community. Which we do a fantastic job. And again, Erica, I see her out there. But, we may need a specific presentation. We may need additional information on what we are doing. But again, it is so important. I cannot emphasize this enough. And I guess just as with my legal background and with my analytical background, it's the data that is going to drive, if you can say you want to serve your senior community, but until you understand that your senior community makes up 50% of your population or 30% of your population, it is very difficult to go ahead and design programs or even partner with organizations that are willing to, to go ahead and design these programs. Same thing is true for some of these other subsets. So I think we are good. If the commission has any other big umbrella bucket segments of the community that you can think of, now is kind of really the time to bring that forward.
I think Commissioner Wilson, did she not mention poverty? Is that?
Yes.
Or is that?
Oh, yes.
Yep, don't forget that
Yes.
one. That's a key.
So you did. In fact, we started with that, was those that are living in our community under the poverty level.
Well, this is one, you don't have to add this to your list, but I just thought with, for males never being married, 15%, and females never being married, 14%, we can work out a dating segment, right there. And match them together.
We care about your love life too. We care about your love life too. We want everybody to be
We can
happy.
make something happen.
'Cause then we'll be happier.
No, we are not setting up our own Match.com. It's not going to happen.
MatchTemecula.com.
MatchTemecula.com. But I appreciate the suggestion. I have noted those in our community that are living under the poverty.
I really want to bring up a barrier, and someone spoke to it earlier, and I think it's a barrier that affects us all. That's communication. How do we get the word out? How do we share information? Because there's a lot of resources out here, right, that we can get into people's hands, but if they don't know where it's at, if it's not easily accessible, and if we're not communicating it effectively using all of our platforms, then guess what? It's just a program just sitting on the shelf. And we have to really look at, because we're a bed-down community, right? People go to work, they come back to sleep, they go to work, come back to sleep. And on the weekend, there are more tourists, people from outside of the city using our resources like Old Town, going to Pachanga, going to the wineries. So a lot of times they're tired and they're not looking at websites and everything that the city has to offer. So a huge thing in all of this, a huge barrier to all of this, is how do we effectively communicate and how do we continue to use our communications platforms to get information out and ensure our citizens are aware of all we have to offer. I know that's been a problem for a long time, but how do we get some of these things on our app, the app that we have? We know we got redistricting coming up that the citizens need to know about. It should be wide open on the app. The first thing you see on the app should be everything redistricting, because we're in that position right now.
And what it means
our resources,
and how
our
to
HRM, our resources that we have for each one of these segments should be right on that app. When they click on it, they go right to it. So there's some things that we need to do in that area too, and I think that's a barrier to a lot of things as well. How do we effectively communicate in our city as well?
Yeah, I think the app plus news, like paper copies, the newsletters, your Channel 3, et cetera.
The meetings.
Yes.
Because then it's repeated everywhere, you know. It's kind of like the church picnic you're going to have in 6 months, and you start announcing for it, and it's like, oh, when the picnic finally comes, everybody
Yeah.
know.
And booths at special events with all this information.
And booths, and also what events the city is doing for organizations to provide booths for, because I just think it's sad that a lot of these things are being requested. They're already here. And so the barrier to services, for people to receive services, is, to me, the biggest barrier. Because, and anyone knows any platform I sit on, I also sit on I'm a chair of an anti-poverty agency, and I talk about that, how you can have the best programs, but if people can't access them or don't know that they exist, this conversation continues. So I think the weightier matter out of all of this, and we are asking the community, how do we engage you to make sure you get the information? What are we missing? Because we keep hearing communication, communication, communication. And I'm just trying to figure it out, because at some point you have communication overload. So then you're not even opening them up. I'm just being real. I'm a data person. I pay attention to all of these human behavior things. So then how do we engage you without overloading you with emails? What is the best way? Should we, we're still social distancing or whatever we're doing in the state. Please, we don't have anything to do with that. That's not an issue of equity for us. But my point is maybe putting it when I used to go to the movie theaters before we were closed, there were a lot of announcements running in the movie theater. So maybe some of those things, how we can do some better advertisement in more public spaces.
Mm-hmm.
At parks, maybe getting, that running billboard, maybe some of those around town that, or using the schools, because we already have them, maybe when the schools are, my mind, I am a strategist, I'm a professional problem solver, so my mind goes all day on how to fix the problem. If you give me a problem, I'll help you fix it. So that's what we're doing here. We're saying we're not going to just bring you problems, City of Temecula. We want to roll up our sleeves and see how we can offer suggestions to help you. So commissioners, thank you for this conversation.
Chair Baker, before we close, can I add just simply, I'm sorry. but one group I want to encompass in there is entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, or people, business owners. And as a group, that is something that perhaps in terms of identifying opportunities, but perhaps partnering with legacy business owners, lack of a better phrase, that are here in the stable, and providing those resources to continue to move our businesses forward here, or even being able to help them. There's a lot of people who are even under the poverty umbrella who are remarkable visionaries that have those ideas but have no idea of how to start or where to go. And if we can create like Commissioner Harris said, a mentorship program or something along those lines for that particular group, that would be awesome.
You know what? And the chamber might have something like that.
That, again, a resource, right? So we have to know our resources. It goes back to data.
And there's a way that we can all come together as service providers. Because one of the barriers I feel as a nonprofit, now I have for-profit and nonprofit, so I'm speaking for the for-profit sector. I feel like we reproduce a lot of programming because we're all contending in the same space. But if somehow we can encourage by the city, the more collaborative relationships you have with other individuals within the city, those are the organizations that we fund, or those are the I think that should be a part of the criteria of funding, is that you collaborate and that you can show that and demonstrate that you have the ability and the willingness to collaborate with other community agencies and partners to serve that serve in the same community. I think that's very important, because then it helps us work together and not work apart. And I've fostered several relationships in the community that way. Whoever gets the funding, we come provide the service for them. If we get the funding, then they'll bring their children to us. But it's always the same group of kids being serviced by the same service providers coming together. So I think that's something that will be very beneficial, is as much as we can work together when we're serving. So we have like 5 groups that serve special needs, families and students. Could we have a special needs organizations and service providers that maybe they meet, or they come to the city and learn what the city's doing and how they can work with the city, whatever that group is, you know. We just need to come together as service providers, and anything the city can do to help us accommodate that, accomplish that, that would be good for our citizens. Okay, our hearts clear? You sure, Commissioner Faulkner? I see the look in your eye.
You saw me look at that mic. You saw me look at that mic. Now, I would like to say, in our discussions on Tuesday, you've heard some of our students come up and talk about some of their experiences. So as we're out discovering this, we want to bring you back some of that. Some of you have not heard that. Some of you have not have experienced that, and from the comments, you know, some of these things are not going on. As we go out and we talk to them, some of these things are not reportable. They're not hate crimes or anything like that. But we as citizens need to know that some of these things at the lower level that parents are dealing with, that kids are dealing with in schools and in our organizations across the city, you need to know about them. Because we can't, if we don't know, we can always sit back and say it's not happening here. And, you know, in my situation, if a disabled human being has been denied access, has been denied, that's one too many. If one kid has been in school and has been bullied or been and discriminated against, that's one too many. It doesn't matter if they're black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Native American. If it's one in our city, we need to be together, standing united to say we will not have that here. So all that's not reported, but it happens sometimes here. So, and we need to just galvanize. If we all believe it shouldn't happen, let's stand together and put in policy to make sure it doesn't happen again. So, you know, I like the political process. I think it worked Tuesday where everybody was heard, everybody had an opportunity to say their point. That's great. That's the America I live in. That's our country. That's our political process at its finest. And you should be, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, you should be wanting to listen to what the other side has. I'm not Democratic, Republican, Libertarian, Independent, but I know the solution to moving forward revolves around all of those political processes. And no one has the right answer no matter what side you get on. So let's get in an environment and create an environment that we've had in our city to where we can actually have a conversation. Just have a conversation. And if I have a conversation with you and we respect one another and we walk away and we say, Eric, I just disagree with you. I got this point, I disagree with you. And if you have facts on your side, guess what? I'm going to say you win because I brought up an opinion, and an opinion doesn't mean anything if it's not based and substantiated in metrics, data, facts. So let's get to a point where we can have a conversation like that. And I'm open to having that no matter where you're at. You know, I mean, like I said, with Mike Wooten out into the homeless, I'm willing to meet you where you're at. It doesn't matter if you're homeless. It doesn't matter if you disagree with me. It doesn't matter the climate you're in. Even if the entire room disagrees with me, I'm willing to sit there and have a conversation. So let's do that. Let's have a conversation and see where we can get to a point where we can meet in the middle just to keep our city great. Our city's great. We've done a lot of good things. Security's great here, one of the safest cities in the country. I mean, let's keep it that way and work together and just stop politicizing everything and have human being discussions about how we work together to move our city forward. So I just want to say that one point.
So Commissioner Faulkner, can I take that as your report? Thank you so very
I am
much. And I'll just go on to Commissioner Harris. I think that's great. We're on commissioner reports now.
I will always mess that up. Okay, so alongside Commissioner Faulkner, I attended the city council meeting last Tuesday, and I believe the city council meeting the Tuesday, like 2 weeks prior. So I've been in this space quite often. And it's a very unique opportunity to see, government at work. And I would be lying to say that it wasn't difficult, but everyone has a right to come up and speak and share their opinions, and it's a beautiful process. It's democracy at play. However, we spent tonight discussing some of the barriers to the access of resources. And I think that it's really important to acknowledge a barrier that I see for our citizens, and that's feeling a level of comfort speaking with their city government, with their elected officials, or just feeling engaged within their community. It is up to us, or just in generally the city, in order to be representative of what this city should strive for, it should be empathy and compassion. It should be very firm that discrimination and intolerance is not acceptable here. I heard a lot of some brave people that came and shared their experiences, that those were feelings. The city doesn't have a responsibility for individuals' feelings. And it made me think of our past work with the Quality of Life Master Plan. That's about an individual's quality of life. If you don't feel acknowledged, seen, or understood, or respected, then you're not having a very good quality of life. You're not. And really, I hope, and I see a way forward where individuals, as we move together as a group, they feel comfortable speaking with us, sharing their experience. Because although they might start off as feelings or experiences of discrimination, and that could be from anybody, that could be a special needs individual. My nephew is autistic and Black, and he navigates the world differently. And one day he might get called, something that's discriminatory towards his race, and the other day it's because, he was acting different. He maneuvers that world. And I couldn't imagine him coming into a space where he wants something to be changed, that he heard that those were just his feelings. And that's not the responsibility of our town, of our elected officials. It is. There's something to say about creating a culture of tolerance. And really, that's where I want to end it. Thank you all so much.
Thank
We can
you.
move on.
Commissioner Ward.
Thank you, Chair Baker. So I want to take a moment also to thank the community, city council, commissioners, and staff who continue to support the REDI initiative, especially during these challenging times. I was at the council meeting the last, when Chair Baker reported out last, and saw the past couple of meetings as well. And I just want to reiterate what has been said before, that we are not a hate group, we are the opposite, and we are an inclusive group. And so that includes everyone. It includes everyone in this room as well. This commission is here to be a voice for all, to bring strength, heal, provide hope, and leave no one behind, which we have mentioned before. After hearing the many public comments these past few weeks, I have realized something, but I heard somebody say it today and also at the last council meeting, that no matter what the opinions or perspectives are, we all care about this city. And so with that being known and said, I truly believe that we can all work together and move forward to make Temecula the absolute best it can be for everyone, because I think that's the goal that we all have in mind. So I personally continue to look forward to having these collective conversations, serving and working with the community and getting to know others, and hopefully you are wanting to get to know us as well, and help in providing more outreach and constructive dialogue to eliminate the misinformation that is out there. So I continue to invite and encourage you all to participate in our meetings and continue to come to our meetings so we can grow the initiative together and have respectful and productive conversations. And with that being said, I believe that concludes my report.
Thank you. Commissioner Wilson? I won't let you be last. See, we're not leaving you down there.
Yeah, so I'll just be short and sweet. Yeah, Tuesday was definitely something hard to listen to and to see. But for those of you that are here, thank you for coming to hear our meeting this evening, and those that are watching on television, because we really wanted you to see what this commission is truly about. We're here for the people of Temecula, nothing more, nothing less. If there's anyone that's underrepresented, any era, any areas, any genre, anything, we just want to be that voice. And that's all we want. We want to share love. We want to be loved. We want everybody to feel included. That is why we are here. We love each other. We just met each other, 8 months ago?
Yeah.
We've been going to meetings on Zoom since, I think, January. Some meetings have been 5 hours. Some have been almost 6 hours. But we're doing that because we want to learn more about our committee and also about our community. And more importantly, what we can do for our community. We're here to serve. That's it. And we're doing it from our heart, not from hatred, not from anything else, but love. And if you get to know any one of us up here, you will know that we genuinely care for our city and for our council, and we're here for the people. And that's it. That completes my report.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Pastorian.
Thank you, Chair Baker. Where to start, right? It's been a long couple of weeks, certainly for myself and for my colleagues watching what has happened. And my heart hurts. It hurt watching all of those things and seeing and hearing the statements, the comments. But I also recognize the fact that it was a window into our community. And I think I have said this before, but sometimes what you see isn't what you like and what you want. And some of that is what I felt as that happened. But it also gave me a lot of hope in those moments. I will say, you know, there was a couple of comments tonight, and there were some words that I was very clearly listening to. And I think they also resonate with a lot more people who are not here, but who were here Tuesday. And I'll speak to some of that. One is that I recognize and see that people are skeptical. I get it. I get it. I get you when you say that. I understand. And the only way, really, for that to go away is our city's responsibility to provide awareness for what we're doing. You have to be aware of what's going on, and certainly this conversation that you saw tonight is just that. It's awareness of the dialogue. You're seeing a peek into something that is just starting out, right? If this is just a conversation, we won't see the fruits of what it is that we talked about tonight for some time, but we know that the conversation is meaningful. And so that is something that, you know, we have to do a better job of making people aware. And the pandemic is not necessarily an excuse for that. I think that our worlds were caught up in a time, but we have to do better. We have to do better at that. It was dark. There was the comment about darkness, right? We've been in darkness, and I agree. We have been. And I saw some of that throughout the last couple of weeks. It exists. That darkness exists. It exists for lots of reasons, including that pandemic. We've all been affected, and we've all been living under this cloud that has provided darkness. And to not acknowledge that would be, we'd have to be blind, really, So I want to acknowledge that. But that is something that we want to be able to pull ourselves out of, to be able to be that light. This group is that light. We want to be able to shine that on all of the community, all of Temecula, so that everything, everyone can have all of that same level of opportunity. And yeah, does it sound? Even to me, as I say it, does it sound this, utopian type place? Yeah, absolutely. But this is what visions are made of. This is what dreams, right? You believe, you dream, you achieve. This is what it is. There is a phenomenal mural right now that we just put up, and if I had to summarize what we do here, it's encapsulated in that picture. It is children of all backgrounds, and it is their dream being recognized, and how we as adults are that particular inspiration, and how we influence that. Our words do matter in what we say, but we also have to acknowledge all of the other things. And I think we heard that, and I want to applaud our city council for hearing and acknowledging and opening that door up to allow those conversations to be had. But what came of that as well is the fact that I heard a lot of hurt in those conversations, a lot of hurt. Anger sometimes comes from a different place. People, it just comes from a different place. Sometimes it's from being hurt. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's from being frustrated and of, hitting a wall all the time and you don't feel like you're being heard. I get it. I really do. I get it. But at the end of the day, I think that's something that we certainly saw as a commission watching this unfold, is that our community was hurt. There was people that were in it that are, it's apparent. And so, yes, we want to be able to be a group of people that can be the voice for people and to try to heal some of that. There's no hidden agenda at all. There's no hatred at all. This is really about something different and strengthening our community. It is about strengthening our community and being that advisory group to our council. But I have to tell you that you are our advisory group as citizens. You help us to know and how to speak and how to be able to provide the proper information to the council so that it can be taken back. We don't make any rules. We don't do that. But we can provide insight. But we are even limited. We have barriers ourselves in terms of the kind of reach that we each have. And we need you to help us. I encourage that dialogue to continue, absolutely. Hurtful or not, or all of those things, I think that it's important that our dialogue continue, that, bring your comments to us, that we don't stop the conversation. But I would have to ask you that we expand our conversation beyond just race. Let us look at all of the things, and you heard that tonight. You heard that from us tonight, and there's more. We only scratched the surface. We could be here another 7 hours, 8 hours. We could, but again, we need you to be able to bring those things to us. You are those people who can help us. And you are in the community, boots on the ground, doing the shopping, doing the interacting with other people. You see it. I only see what I see in the circles that I move in. I know Ms. Wilson only sees what she sees in the circles that she moves in, and it's so on down the line here. So we need you. We absolutely need you, and we need you to continue the dialogue. The reality is, again, and I think it was both Commissioner Harris and Huerta that brought up that we're an inclusive group. Yeah, we want inclusion. We absolutely want inclusion. I kind of talked about it earlier in terms of special needs and what that might look like. But I also learned watching these things how important race is as it becomes an identifiable piece for people, both in their past, in their present, and in their future. And I could never imagine taking that away from somebody. You would think sitting in this seat has forced me to stretch myself beyond what I even thought I could do. You can't choose to be inclusive of one group and not be inclusive in another. That's not inclusion. That's not even recognizing the diversity. I have had to reflect on myself, and I would encourage everybody to reflect on themselves to see exactly where you really are in terms of certain issues. It's important, again, and bring that conversation to us. I want to talk about it. Culture, is something that is important and that we should all look to discuss and have. And I know I've shared a little bit of my story with a few commissioners as well, and I hope to share that with anybody who is open to talking with me about it. At the end of the day, fear is another key term that we heard a lot of, and it's powerful. It is absolutely powerful. But if we continue to feed fear, then it will overtake us, and it will have power over the good that we're trying to do in our community. And every single one of you who's sitting here wants to do good in the community, because that's why you're sitting here. You love Temecula just like we do, and we cannot let the fear of the unknown tear us apart. That is where the true division comes. Division comes when we're so angry we're separated. Division comes when we're so hurt that we're separated. And division comes when we are fearful of the unknown. So it is important that we start to look at some of the positive things that have come from this. And I think a lot of positive things have come from this, honestly. We want to be able to provide accessibility to everybody. We want to be able to provide and further opportunity for everybody. We want to provide enrichment for people. We ultimately want inclusion for everyone. And that's everyone. So I appreciate the comments and the truth and the authenticity that everybody spoke on Tuesday. And I especially appreciate, and Randy knows because I have asked a million times, the young people who spoke were incredible. That is a product of our city. We have done a good job. They were clear, they were concise. Doesn't matter necessarily what side they were talking on. They were courageous, and they represented Temecula better than any of us, really. I am proud of every single one of them, and I hope they are watching tonight. I would love to speak with them individually because they were so impressive. I feel good about the conversation that we have had tonight, and I am thankful to all of our council members. I am incredibly thankful for those of you who supported us. But I'm also incredibly thankful for Councilmember Alexander, who also opened up a door for a discussion that we may not have had otherwise and allowed us to show our authentic self. And so that is something that should not be remissed. But I am incredibly proud of the support that we received from all of the council members. I ask that us as Temeculans, all of us, and we go to talk about communication and what can we do, what can you do? It is about our peer-to-peer contacts. It is about the peer-to-peer influences, the communications that you have with your peers. And I would charge everybody here to continue to listen to these meetings, to learn with us, alongside us, and discover, as Commissioner Faulkner stated, and learn about all those things that we have to offer and take it to your groups, your peer groups, the people that you talk to, and let's continue to move the ball forward, the dialogue forward, and do something that we are all proud of here. That's what we all want to do. This is not just about serving on a commission today or a discussion today or next week or next month. We are setting foundations for the future, and they're not ill-intended. They are made with a lot of deep thought and a lot of compassion, and with your opinions and thoughts as well. We are thinking about every single individual as we speak and move forward. I think the last thing that I want to say is I ask all of my commissioners, and I know where you all stand, but everybody else, to rise up with Temecula, to rise up with what it is that we are doing and unite together, because we are stronger together. We are stronger together when we have a focused goal. And yes, we are going through a particular, we got to get through these things, but that only comes with honest dialogue, and that comes with the ability to communicate. And perhaps some of us didn't communicate as well as we should have, and perhaps some of us over-communicated. But it doesn't matter, we were communicating, and that is what is important. So I am proud of our council members. I am proud of every single person who got up there and spoke, whether you were with us or not. You were courageous, and you were contributing and participating in a process, and you were engaged in what this community is all about. And we want to hear you too, because at some point, you never know. You could be that group. You just don't know. And we want to be here for you and your children and all of the things that they may need, and provide those resources. But I am proud to be a Temeculan, and I am absolutely astounded, shocked, and in a positive way at what has occurred, because I think good came of it. And I appreciate every single person here who spoke and who will continue to speak and participate in our dialogue as we keep moving this initiative forward. Thank you.
Well, you guys have shared so much, I'll try not to recap any of the points that's been made, except I agree with you all. And thank you for sharing. But I think it would be remiss of me as a Christian to say I am disappointed personally. I'm just disappointed because in the name of Jesus, we're calling people names. Matt Ron, God bless you for your leadership, for your kindness and your compassion. The Word of God says, know a tree by the fruit it bears. I stand by your fruit, because out of the abundance of your heart, the Word says, we speak. And I've not heard you speak ill of anyone. I've not heard you put anyone down. I've not heard you try to hurt anyone as a wicked person would do, or as a person that's spiritually dead would do. And I stand here as a woman of God and say, I honor you. I thank you. And I stand to bear witness of your good fruit and your good character. Thank you very much, Matt Ron. The word says when unrighteousness stands, people got to stand up. Right is right and wrong is wrong. We can't hurt people in the name of the Lord. I don't understand what Jesus we are seeing here. Because, see, we can talk about the Jesus that turned over the tables for the Pharisees and the Sadducees that were abusing people in his name. He said, you will prophesy in my name. You will cast out devils in my name. But I will tell you, depart from me, because I knew you not. We're discussing religion here because it is a diversity issue, and it has been used to hurt people. And as Christians, we cannot say that is acceptable as Christianity. We can disagree. I mean, Christianity is from one end of the spectrum in this town to the other, and everything in between. And it's okay, because there's room for all of us. But what it's not is hurting people. And then I heard, that's you all's problem. We're not here to be your counselors. Well, what kind of God do we serve The word says that we have a God that's been touched with the feelings of our infirmities. He cares about other people and what they're going through. So actually, the REDI Commission is a biblical answer to its city, actually. Because Luke 4:18 says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. He has anointed me to preach the gospel, to the good news, to the brokenhearted. We heard a lot of pain and brokenheartedness here. We heard a lot of hurt. We heard a lot of disappointment. And you telling me as a Christian, we're not to do anything? We're not to care because we're the government? If a government cannot care about the pain of its residents, well, then what is the government here for? It is to see the people. Please stop hurting people in the name of the Lord. What was done to that man was wrong. I have cried out and said, God, please have mercy. Don't let him quit. Don't quit. Don't let him take in the wounds. That was a wound, sent a wound and hurt that man. I pray for his heart to not fail him, to be said such horrible things. Please, please, people. And I have served your families. And I can tell you this. When you need faith, you don't care what color my skin is. I've walked into many of your hospital rooms with your loved ones, sick and dying. And I've been the last hand they've held. They didn't care what the color of my skin was. They wanted to know the content of my character and what was in my heart. So I take offense to the name calling, personally. I'm not impressed. I'm sitting at home with my kids. I've never been called colored a day in my life. I'm too young for that. But I sat right there and demonstrated the love of Christ. I never cursed back at one person. Everyone came in here accusing me, calling me names on behalf of this prestigious group of people. And just like Christ, I still open my heart up to you, Councilwoman Alexander. And I ask you, can we work together as Christians to heal our city? I still extend that offer to you. And I want to thank you for your recommendation. I do not approve of all the tactics and the name calling and all of that. That's hurtful and that's not of God. But I am grateful for your request. Thank you. Thank you for your request because now it gives us a place where we can all come together in common ground. Let's talk about how can we help our community. Let's talk about how we can stop these children from hurting themselves and cutting themselves and the suicide rate going up. We have pain here and it's represented in our children. And so I would ask for the sake of the children, I had to have my grandchildren to stop watching. I had to have my children, my gift children, to stop watching because I didn't want that hatred in their spirit while they was going to sleep. That shouldn't be. Kids should be able to watch government, especially in a local town like this where there's no racism. Come on now. Come on. And, I'm going to calm down because you mess with the kids and you're doing it in the name of Jesus and you're hurting people, and that just makes me angry. That's wrong. And that's why I ask you, please don't start telling us off and calling us names because I wasn't going to be too Christian tonight. So I appreciate the civility. And I will ask for us to stop doing that to people. If we don't agree, it's okay. But I am not your enemy. And I am not making you mine. I love you with the love of Jesus. It requires me. That love requires me to forgive even when I don't want to. And to be called all of those names and to be accused. My kids were proud of me and they started saying, well, why are they saying you're doing all of those bad things? I don't know. I don't know. But these people are good. These people are good. And they're your neighbors. And in a pandemic, we all suffered a pandemic. Where y'all coming from? Y'all special because you all couldn't show up. It wasn't just the pandemic. People were hurting. We did have social unrest here. And I came and I said, how can I help? How can I help? I'm the least racial person you ever want to meet personally. See, but you don't know that about me. Why you accusing me? Because I can't focus on race and serve children. I can't focus on race and serve children. So I'm not your racial expert. I'm your humankind expert. To say, please see people that are different from you. Please know that their experiences matter. Please do, because the crimes you all quote that's happening in the other cities, if you don't see the pain of your residents, that will begin to manifest itself in very detrimental ways. So I will ask you to consider that. And I want to thank the city for your courage. I stood right there and I said to you, I'll join this commission if we can keep leading the way, because the way needs to be led. Race issues are not going away, people. We can just address them for our city. For our city. Please do not tell me what person committed, a black person committed a crime in another city. I'm not there, and neither are you. It's not productive to the conversation. It's insulting, because that says to me that somehow I need to take an account for every crime that a black person committed. What does that have to do with me? What does it have to do with her? What does that have to do with him? Nothing. But it's your prejudice that's telling us that. Check your heart and your motives for what you're saying to people. And stop accusing them of doing what you're doing. That's what you're doing. You're discriminating against us. You don't know us. You've never had a conversation with us, but you're calling us names. You're judging us based on the content of our skin color, but race doesn't matter. You're making us do what everyone else is doing in every other city, but we are residents here. I'm a taxpayer here. I own a home here. I do business here. I planted roots here. This is my community. And I have a right to be seen and heard and not beat down because I'm a minority. And every other minority in the groups that we are here discussing and representing here. And last but not least, can we leave staff out of it? Stop using staff as your examples to say how inclusive you are. That is wrong. Leave Randy alone. Please leave her alone. I feel bad for her too. You guys tear her to shreds. She cannot do anything that her employer, which is the city of Temecula, she's sitting on these boards because she's representing her city as a way of employment, not as a way to destroy your city. Leave her alone. Leave her alone. I'm tired of hearing this woman's name dragged through the mud for no reason. Leave her alone. Leave her alone. And last but not least, Friendship Park. Because we need to end on what's real here. The kids. The kids. The kids are watching how we treat the adults. Get it together. Friendship Park represents what we want to do here in Temecula. Visit it. Go back to the meetings where I talked about the Afro Puff girl. You want to know why I wanted to see an Afro Puff? Because of Gabrielle that stood up here and talked to you. Because when she came to me. All the girls in my Girl Scout troop are laughing at me because my hair is kinky. My hair is kinky and no one else's hair is kinky. And what about girls that want to kill themselves because they don't have thin lips? What about girls? This is why race matters, people. Because people need to be seen. People are hurting. This woman does not deserve this hate. And she has little curly hair too. And she represents a community that should not be ostracized and put up to say. It's just like saying, oh, I have a black friend, so I'm not prejudiced. Oh, I spoke to Randy, and she's from India. And Jesus, I'm going to calm down because I just feel the pain. Stop hurting people. Just see us as humans. Just see us as humans. Please. You may not agree, but please see us as humans. And go and see Friendship Park. Go to the city's website and pick up Flickr. If you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you will see an icon for a camera. If you click on that icon for that camera, you'll see all the city's events. Look at Friendship Park and look at the mural display that we just left, and you will see what the REDI Commission is about. We are about seeing those that not necessarily will be seen so easily. And we're about giving them a voice and giving you an opportunity to know them because they're great people. And Randy Joel, you are a great woman. And we salute you and we thank you. And I apologize. On behalf of the city as a resident, I apologize for the hate you've received and the misunderstandings just doing your job. That concludes my report. I hope you hear my heart. And more importantly, I hope you can feel the heart of God for the people. If we forget the people, what is it for? That concludes my report. I'll turn it over to you for your executive director's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you for the support. Thank you to the city council members for their support. I love this community. I'm doing the best that I can. I can assure every member of the public that is here and every member of the public that has ever come to a council meeting that I report to the city manager, and the city manager reports to the city council. And any piece of work that I have done here for the last 7, starting on 8 years, has been with the full knowledge of the city council and the city manager. I'll leave that at that. There have been members of the community that have reached out. There have been former council members that have reached out. There have been former council members' wives that have reached out. Current council members' wives that have reached out. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. There are my former neighbors in Harveston that have reached out. Thank you. Just everyone. I don't want to miss anybody. Just thank you to everybody. Madam Chair, members of this commission, for my executive director's report tonight, as I mentioned earlier, the preliminary census data was released. It is not data that we at this point can specifically use as a city, nor can any other city, because those numbers do have to be adjusted by the state of California. Those numbers should take a couple of weeks. At that point, we will go ahead and get our adjusted data, our adjusted census numbers, and that is the set of numbers that we will be doing redistricting with. That is the set of numbers that, should the city council give us direction to go ahead and do additional work in this space, that is what we will be using, and any other data sets that are further developed from that. So we are excited about that. We are also excited about, at the August 24th meeting of the City Council, we will be having our very first redistricting public workshop. So we invite the commission to attend, we invite the members of the public to attend, and it will be the first of 4 public hearings. Next week, we will also be going to the Planning Commission, as we have already come to the REDI Commission and the Community Services Commission. So that process continues. And that is my report tonight, but I do not want to end without, I have an amazing staff. I have amazing work colleagues that have been so supportive of me and of this work. And we here at the City of Temecula staff, we are a family. This lady right here, she's my sister. So, Erica, we've been through a lot, and thank you for hanging in there. We can make it to retirement. I know we can. And there's just a whole team. Chris is in the back. These meetings wouldn't happen without him. So, Chris, we don't see you, but we know you're back there, so thank you. And with that, Madam Chair, give it back to you.
We want to thank you, and I have a request which I am honored to honor. If we can ask the commissioners to stand up and hold hands, we're going to just adjourn in unity on behalf of the city. We are your REDI Commission, and we are ready to serve. We've been through a lot together so far, but with the grace of God, we can go further. And we can make a difference, and we are making a difference. Your presence here today, your presence at all the city council meetings, and your involvement and your courage. And so I bless you, Temecula. And in the name of our wonderful city, Temecula, we adjourn in unity. Amen. Until we see you again. Our next meeting is September 9th. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Good meeting. Good meeting. I know, we all need to